is that out of the Oklahoma State players that entered the portal, only 37% of those players ended up at the Power 4 level. 37% of the players that entered the portal from Oklahoma State. We said when they played Tulsa, when Oklahoma State played Tulsa this past year, that it looked like Tulsa had more talent than Oklahoma State. It looked like Tulsa was the more talented team. Well, that has sort of proven itself, because most of these guys that left, the majority of them did not find soft landing spots at the Power 5. So, says a lot. Going back to how Morris built the roster, which is basically what this piece is about. It starts with Drew Mestemaker. That was the first piece of the puzzle. So we had to talk Mestemaker into coming to Oklahoma State. Mestemaker was being sought after by LSU, Texas A&M, and Oregon. Full stop. So 2 quarterbacks we know in the Big 12 right now, Brennan Sorsby and Drew Mestemaker, were pursued by LSU and Lane Kiffin. 1 quarterback that was in the Big 12 left the Big 12 to go to LSU. But there are 2 that basically said no to Kiffin. Now, in terms of the hierarchy, it's been reported that Sorsby was the first guy on Indiana and LSU's list. I don't know where Mestemaker was on that list relative to Leavitt, but it's just interesting dynamic to look at. That there are 2 quarterbacks that chose Big 12 schools over big, bad LSU. And in the case of Mestemaker, Oregon and A&M as well. Now, a big part of the Oregon thing was obviously the return of quarterback Dante Moore. So Mestemaker wasn't going to go there anyways because Moore ended up coming back. But at the time, Moore was thinking about the NFL. And look, they reportedly, according to Olson and his sourcing, Morris will make $7 million over the next 2 seasons. I asked Mestemaker on the show yesterday in an interview you can hear later on today's show, or go to our podcast page and check it out there. Did you take less money to go to Oklahoma State? He basically said he didn't want to answer that, which is a fine answer and a smart answer from him. But, that regardless of the money, the fit with Morris made the most sense, which is exactly what I was thinking he would say. But, after Mestemaker comes on board, that's when they went just crazy in terms of they had 89 official visits in 26 days. They hosted 89 players in 26 days. There was a story Olson told about how they were in the middle of talking to one guy, and then a guy that had just left in the same position committed, and they're like, well, sorry, because the money we had earmarked for you at this position is not going to that guy who just committed. So, sorry, we don't have a spot for you anymore. Literally, while they're talking to this dude, they had 61 official visits that were canceled, and some of those based on what we just talked about, that story I just told. 60 total transfer additions, and here are the raw numbers from the production standpoint, because this is exactly, again, how Morris is building. 495 career starts and 36,000 career snaps imported. More experience added via the portal than any other Power 4 program, and it wasn't even close. Only Colorado added more than 400 Division I starts this offseason, and they're at 495 starts. So, again, of the 66 players who left Oklahoma State following last season, only 25 landed at other Power 5 programs. That was not a talented roster in the least bit. It was not a Power 5 Big 12 roster. So Eric Morris didn't exactly inherit a fixer-upper. He inherited a condemned building. And his response was to move to an Airbnb with his GM, order pizza, and build an entirely new program in 26 days. No war room, no NIL army, no war chest, just Morris and Murdy making million-dollar decisions the morning of each visit. They said in some cases they weren't even sure how much they were going to pay each of these guys until they started visiting with them. They pulled offers mid-visit again based on one guy that committed in the middle of a meeting, and they somehow again hosted 89 players on official visits while half the roster was still unknown. It's a pretty wild story. Cannot wait to dig deeper into it with Eric Morris at spring meetings coming up in a few weeks, and then again at media days in July. When you think about, for a team that right now nationally is being thought of as a team that could have, pretty significant, be a pretty significant player in the Big 12 this year, after having not won any Big 12 games in the last 2 seasons, the way they built the roster is pretty wild, and especially relative to the Blue Bloods, who have, entire front offices and a war chest and NIL software and on and on. Like, Oklahoma State had a spreadsheet, 2 dudes, pizza at Airbnb, and a deadline. And when the dust settled, no program in America had added more power, had added more proven experience, 495 career starts, 36,000 plus career snaps, built almost entirely from players other programs had already evaluated and moved on from. So we talk about West Virginia finding players with an edge, Oklahoma State finding players with an edge. That's going to be a huge, I think, subplot to some of these teams that finished towards the bottom of the Big 12 last year, and especially a team like Oklahoma State with a new coaching staff. And, 2 different ways to build, certainly. I think West Virginia, they prioritized a lot of different things, having an edge, but also they want guys with multiple years of eligibility, whereas Oklahoma State went out and found guys that have proven experience, limited of eligibility, with the exception of Mestemaker, and then maybe guys that were picked over from other programs but have that proven, capabilities because they've already played. So it should be very, very interesting to see how both those teams fare because, look, when we dig into this next week in this Road to Arlington series, there's going to be a lot of reason for optimism for all these teams because this is the time of optimism. List season, the off season, all of the question marks are going to be answered affirmatively. Now, there's obviously legitimate roster holes, and West Virginia and Oklahoma State will have to answer for those, but get a good sense of, really the full breadth of how these teams were built, what to look for, and what might make them successful this year. I think for West Virginia, it's you find the right guys that buy in because they were chosen, not chosen over other guys, have that edge, and then Oklahoma State because the guys that have the edge but have the proven experience. And I would say for evaluating those 2 teams, the Oklahoma State side looks a little bit more optimistic because they've got the more proven quarterback. Hawkins was more highly recruited, played at Oklahoma, but Mestemaker has the better numbers and was one of the best quarterbacks in college football last year. Should be a lot of fun. We start our series next Monday, talking through Oklahoma State on the road to Arlington. All right, a lot to get to today, including breaking down the latest on the NBA draft, winners and losers from the NBA Combine coming up. But obviously, A.J. Dybantsa would like to be the 2nd overall pick. Why is that obvious? Well, because he has embraced Utah as his second home, or maybe more of his primary home right now. It's sort of amazing that things worked out like this with Utah holding the 2nd pick because he played at Utah Prep, obviously, went to BYU, and now hopes to stay in Utah. Most players want to be the number 1 overall pick. Dybantsa would like to be, but he'd like it to be for Utah. And here's what he said, clip 3, about how he'd like to be drafted number 1, and that's always been his goal.
I haven't been ranked nothing less than 1 since, ESPN rankings came out with us. So in 9th grade, I was ranked 1, never dropped. And 1 just always been my goal. It's been a dream of mine, and to be able to accomplish that would be, a real blessing.
All right, so it's always been a goal of his. He's always been number 1, but here's what Utah Jazz co-owner Ryan Smith said about A.J.
Contrary to popular belief, we don't control that. We're trying to win a championship. So everything should be on the table. Austin and Danny have also been known to do some pretty crazy stuff on draft night. The next 40 days, you're going to see some madness in the NBA. And, it might or might not be with us. And maybe the best thing that Danny sees and Austin see is just the path of just to go and let's draft the best player available. I know that they don't draft just based on fit. Always take the best. They are of the mindset, always take the best player available. We'll figure out how to make them fit.
It was reported during the Combine that Dybantsa's camp made it known that he'd like to stay in Utah. Now, it didn't go as far as to say that he wouldn't work out for Washington, which, I always dislike when players do that. And I would understand his motivation if he wanted to do that, but that isn't the case here. He's working out for Washington. He'd like to be the number 1 overall pick, although his preference would be to stay, in Utah and play for the Jazz. So, look, Dybantsa has really, I think, approached everything the right way, quote unquote. There might not be a right way, but I would say how people look at players and the perception of guys. I mean, Peterson maybe wasn't viewed as doing things the right way, and Dybantsa has kind of done the right way the entire time. And I would say, basically, like we'd like to go to Utah. There's obviously a history here with Utah, but we'll go with wherever it takes me. And yeah, I mean, being the number one overall pick would be a big deal. So look, I think, and I said this yesterday, and I still think Peterson ends up becoming the number one overall pick. There's just been a lot of noise, and I understand it, but when push comes to shove, I do think Peterson will be the number one overall pick. But coming out of the combine, the consensus is that Dybantsa will be the number one pick. So house money right now is not on Peterson to be the number one overall pick. And it's Dybantsa to end up in Washington. Now, it's obvious that Utah wants Dybantsa, and they may want Dybantsa more than Dybantsa wants them, and obviously Dybantsa wants them. But it'll be really interesting to see how Danny Ainge tries to manage this draft if he truly wants Dybantsa that much and isn't guaranteed to get him with the number 2 pick. We'll have plenty more to say on the winners and losers from the draft combine, which concluded in Chicago this week. On the way next, though, we're talking with Casey Alexander, the Kansas State basketball coach. This is a guy that played at Belmont when it was an NAIA school, coached at Belmont, and when you think about Belmont basketball and from a Big 12 perspective, you probably think of Belmont as a program that is consistently in the NCAA tournament. Have they had any deep runs? No, but the consistency that Casey Alexander has shown is unbelievable. 15 years as a coach at Lipscomb and Belmont, at Stetson, Lipscomb, and Belmont, 303 and 180, a 627 winning percentage. The dude has won 4 regular season conference titles and 2 tournament titles and made an NCAA tournament appearance. Belmont is just one of 21 programs in the country with 140 or more victories since 2019-2020, joining the company of Houston, Gonzaga, Duke, Purdue, and UConn. So a extremely successful coach across 3 different stops at the mid-major level. Now he joins K-State. He joins us next. We'll hear what his philosophy is. We'll hear what they're going to look like on offense. We'll hear about how he built his roster. That's all coming up next. I'm Ari Temkin. This is Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo. Casey Alexander, the new Kansas State basketball coach, joins us next. This is Big 12 Today on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios.
Jackson's in trouble now. David Bailey, he is a sack machine.
This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo. And normally sitting next to me is James Westling, a proud alum and graduate of Kansas State University. So he's going to be hugely disappointed to miss our conversation right now with Casey Alexander, the new Kansas State basketball coach. Joining us here for the first time on Big 12 Radio. Coach, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
Doing very well, thank you. Excited to talk with you today, and welcome to the Big 12. A Belmont grad and a former Belmont coach, coached at Stetson, Lipscomb, and Belmont. So why now at K-State? Why was the time to take this job?
Yeah, great timing for me. I've been asked that several times, and obviously clear recognition that Kansas State holds a great place in our basketball history, man. A lot of tradition there, a lot of people that love that program. Just really excited about it. The chance to join the Big 12, play at the highest level, just everything that you can imagine lined up perfectly for me, professionally and personally. It's a good time for my family to make a break like this, and so really excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, the number one thing that you look at with you and your teams in the past have been offense and just how efficient your offenses are. I think I looked at it. Your seventh leading scorer was at 7 points per game. And your leading scorer is at 15.6 points per game. So when you look at some of the teams, where there's so much variance between those, like how do you have so much consistency across your scoring?
Yeah, a couple of things. One, we generally play a deeper bench than most teams. We play with so much tempo offensively and a lot of inconsistent movement throughout possessions. It's hard for our players to eat up heavy minutes. And so we play a deeper bench. We want to keep guys fresh and in rotations. And really, the offense is kind of it's an equal opportunity for everybody. It's not a situation where we've got a dominant point guard out there, receiving ball screens throughout the possessions, or we're running a set play for our best shooter. It's pure motion. A lot of ball movement, a lot of player movement, and everybody has the chance to make the plays that they can make. Now, clearly the cream rises to the top, and when it's all said and done, we figure out who our best players are and our leading scorers because they create the most opportunities for themselves. But there is a lot of balance, and we want it that way intentionally.
Is that a product of familiarity? How difficult is that to build with a brand new team?
Well, it's more difficult, and anytime that you have a significant number of new players. And in this case, for me, everybody's new. But even for Kansas State, everybody's new except for one. And so we have a lot of work to do, but there's plenty of time to do it. We start June 1st, and that's about 6 months for us to get ready. If you can't get a team ready to play a game in 6 months, then we need to be doing something different. But I'm excited about that challenge. I think it'll all come together. You accelerate that process by who you recruit and what their strengths are and how they fit your program. You can jump right in and cover a lot of ground quickly.
Yeah. So what did you look for in recruiting? What did you look for in putting together your roster?
Yeah, exactly what I've discussed. I mean, we're pretty determined to make sure that we construct the roster and build things the way that we do it. We're going to play the same style. We're going to have a similar profile for guys on our roster. We want unselfish players. We want high IQ players. We want guys that really understand the game. We want great teammates. So those things were paramount when we had to go find players. And we feel like we did a really nice job of that. Not only just getting guys that can win games at this level, but also having some depth at each position, having real quality across the board. I don't know how many A players we have and first team All-Americans, but I feel like we've got a really competitive group. Time will tell. I'm not naive. I know how great this league is. I know how difficult it is to win games. I know there's NBA talent on every roster. So we've got our work cut out for us. But again, really excited about it.
What do you think has changed maybe stylistically in college basketball over the last 5-6 years?
Yeah, I think the European influence has made the game much better. I mean, I think you're seeing it the way that we've played forever. There are more and more teams playing that way now. Without true low post players, with a lot better spacing, a lot better ball movement, guys playing together. I think those things have really improved our game, and therefore the IQ, the skill level, especially on the offensive end, those things have really improved across the board and at all levels.
Yeah. What about defensively? What's your approach defensively?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm glad that you asked that because I do get asked about offense a lot, not a whole lot. And my response is usually, something along the lines of, we've won a lot of games through the years and a lot of championships, and you can't do that without being good on both ends of the floor. We're pretty simple. I will say that it'll be largely man-to-man and very, very not complex at all. Our only job on the defensive end is to keep the other team from getting great shots and limit those shots to one opportunity. But it is important that we have guys that can play on both ends of the floor, though. I think the style of player and the profile that I've already mentioned on the offensive end is also conducive to what we're trying to do on the defensive end. We want guys that understand scouting reports, personnel, understand how to guard actions, can make changes from game to game or even within a game. Guys that really play for each other, selfless players. So that's how we build our team defensively.
Casey Alexander, the new basketball coach at Kansas State, 10 straight 20-win seasons, a career record of 303 and 180 across Stetson, Lipscomb, and Belmont, with a 627 winning percentage and 6 conference titles: the Atlantic Sun, the OVC, and the Missouri Valley Conference. I'm curious, when you make the jump like this, how much time, if any, have you spent sort of doing a deep dive on the rest of the Big 12 and some of the schematics involved there, or is that something that kind of comes as you get more prepared for the season?
Yeah, that's a work in progress. It's not anything that's concerned me on the front end. I think you take a job like this and you better stay true to who you are and do things the way that you do them to give yourself the best chance to win. But we will familiarize ourselves more and more as we go. We've definitely talked about it. We got a lot of data. We've seen some video. But the deep dive part of it doesn't concern me at all at this point. That's deep into the summer or even into the fall before I worry too much about that.
As someone that's spent a pretty significant portion of your life in the state of Tennessee, I'm curious, is there a Tennessee style in basketball?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that at all. I think there's, like most places, there are a lot of great coaches here, a lot of good teams in this area. The University of Tennessee's had a great run here with Rick Barnes, and Vanderbilt right down the road from Belmont has been very good here lately. Belmont's had a long, longevity of success. And so, we're all a product of what we see from others. You have to be yourself, but at the same time, you have to learn and adapt and make changes. And we'll continue to do that, whether we're in Tennessee or Kansas.
Yeah, but, beyond Rick Byrd, who, is your former coach at Belmont, who are some of your influences, and how has Rick Byrd influenced you?
Yeah, I spent, 20 years, I guess, with Coach Byrd. Played for him and then was an assistant for 16 seasons. And to this day, I speak to him weekly. We live a mile apart, very close. And so nobody's had a greater influence on my life, really, or coaching life than he has. And I say that proudly. He's a man of great character, a Hall of Famer, won over 800 games. So I was the lucky one to get to learn from him and be a part of that program for so long. So anyone else pales in comparison. But like most athletes, all of my coaches had great influence on me. I kind of learned the game as a product of the Don Meyer system, and then that name may not be familiar to a lot of people, but Don Meyer was the coach at Lipscomb for a long time and also a Hall of Famer, won 800 or 900 games himself. And he probably had as much to do with influencing coaches across the country as anybody literally in the history of the game. The guy was a machine. So, and one of his best players was my high school coach. And, so I'm heavily influenced from that side of things as well.
Belmont and Lipscomb are rivals, right?
Yeah, as big of rivals as you can get, 2 miles apart, same street. Yeah.
So how difficult was that to go coach there?
Yeah, it was strange. I won't lie to you there. It was very, putting on those colors for the first time was a little bit awkward. And all of the Belmont people were curious as to how I could possibly make a decision like that. And all of the Lipscomb people were curious as to how they could make a decision like that. But it turned out great. I had 6 awesome years there. We had our first NCAA tournament appearance during that time. We had a championship game, NIT, in Madison Square Garden against Texas during that time. So it was a good run.
What aside from basketball, what are you passionate about? Do you like to go fishing? Do you like to golf? What kind of things you like to do outside of basketball?
I'm a sports junkie, so literally, I watch a ton of games and pay attention to stats and standings and everything else. Baseball's my first love, easily. Pay close attention to that. I'm a Cubs fan in a roundabout way. So those things are important to me and my family. We spend a lot of our time, wasting it watching games and talking about games. But I also love to golf, get outside, and walk 18 holes anytime that I can, which has been few and far between here lately.
Yeah, I was going to ask you who your baseball team was. I know the Nashville Sounds, the Cubs. Is that just the WGN influence?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, growing up here, spending my summers, like a lot of people in my generation, the 110, 120 games on WGN. My whole childhood, it was pretty easy to like the Cubs, and then you start parlay that into trips to Wrigley Field, and it's pretty hard not to be.
Yeah, so I grew up in Chicago, but I'm a White Sox fan, and I went to Kansas. So we've already got two things that are at odds with one another. And we got a huge series this weekend, man. I'm excited. Cubs and White Sox. White Sox are actually playing good baseball, so it should be a lot of fun this weekend with the Cubs and White Sox, and two teams that are playing good baseball right now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I saw one of those games last year, as a matter of fact. I've been to Old Comiskey. I've been to what was New Comiskey, and whatever they call it now. I've been there several times.
I still call it Comiskey, so I can't keep up. I think it's called Rate Field now. Yeah, it's awful. At least Wrigley is easy to remember. And then what about, like, other teams that you've rooted for growing up? You said you're a sports junkie, so, like, the Titans, is that a big team for you? And then who else have you rooted for?
Yeah, for sure. Titans and the Predators in the NHL, both Nashville teams, and we follow those teams closely. And and beyond that, it's just big picture. I've never had a favorite NBA team. I've got a lot of family that I would say are University of Tennessee fans. Just they're about 3 hours away, and a lot of graduates in my family that have leaned that direction. But I'm a K-Stater all the way right now. I can assure you that.
Yeah, for sure. Casey Alexander, the new basketball coach at Kansas State. I know Kansas State fans are really excited about you in this upcoming season. A proven winner with an incredible track record, 10 straight 20-win seasons. Coach, thanks so much for your time. I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks at the spring meetings. Take care and enjoy your summer.
Sounds great. Thanks, guys. Look forward to doing this again.
Yeah, thank you. Casey Alexander joining us here on Big 12 Radio. Said he's a sports nut. Just can't stop watching sports. He and his family are huge sports fans, so whether it's basketball, baseball, football, whatever, they're all in. He spent majority of his life in Tennessee, in the Nashville area, growing up there, coaching at Belmont, playing at Belmont, coaching at Lipscomb. Stetson's in Florida, so he spent some time away from Tennessee when he moved to Florida. But Kansas State, is getting a proven winner here. And, when you compare the coach now to their previous coach, seems like polar opposites. Like Gene Taylor went into this, the profile of Jerome Tang is what I'm not looking for, which is, he hires Jerome Tang, longtime assistant coach, didn't have a proven track record as being a head coach. And you're hiring a guy in Casey Alexander now that's longtime head coach in college basketball, 15 seasons as a head coach, over 300 career wins, proven track record, and a guy that's probably more substance than flash. So should, I think, make K-State fans really excited. All right, there's Casey Alexander joining us here on Big 12 Radio. This is Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. We've got Drew Mestemaker. If you missed that interview, I promise you're not going to want to miss that. Coming up on the way next, the winners and losers of the NBA Combine. Whose stock is rising, whose stock is falling, all of that on the way next. It's Big 12 Today with Big 12 Radio on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios.
Quickly under center, and it is Daniels in for a touchdown. Appearance, offset right, and the Kansas backfield. He'll take heat, looking for the edge, and stumbling out of bounds. Simply one again, you mentioned on third downs. Here's the motion man. Daniels takes a shot downfield, and it's caught. Time ago. He's here in year 6. Nice catch. Henderson off to the races with a vapor trail behind him. The motions for Kansas.
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo. Great to have you with us today and every day here on your home for the Big 12. Tune in the Big 12 Studios. Big 12 Studios, you can find us big12studios.com, the Big 12 Fast Channel on your Roku device, Amazon Prime Video, DirecTV, YouTube, and more. Big 12 Radio is brought to you by the Full-Time Fan by Modelo. We conclude our top 5 series, taking a look at the top 5 players in the Big 12 heading into this upcoming football season. With the top 5 players on offense, we've made our way through every position group, top 5 defensive players, top 5 every offensive position group, top 5 specialists, and we are going to be ranking the top 5 player on offense coming up in about a half hour from now. Dan Rubenstein, Solid Verbal Podcast, joining us to preview the upcoming football season. You're not going to want to miss Dan Rubenstein. Plus, if you missed our conversation with Drew Mestemaker, you can hear that in about 10 minutes from now. Of course, the NBA draft on the way, the Big 12, the huge storyline for that, because the first 2 picks are going to be former Big 12 players in A.J. Dybantsa and Darren Peterson. So the Big 12 will be all over the NBA draft. How many other players from the Big 12 go in the top 10, go in the first round? The NBA Combine just wrapped up in Chicago this week. And so who are the biggest risers and fallers? Well, let's start at the top. A.J. Dybantsa, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday. Man, his athletic measurements were off the charts, especially from the top few picks standpoint. He was just head and shoulders above everybody else athletically. He measured 6'8" without shoes, had a 42-inch max vertical, and a 33.5-inch no-step vertical, just straight jump, and then made 23 of 30 off-the-dribble three-pointers. Meanwhile, Darren Peterson had an unofficial max vert of 37.5, remember, compared to 42 for Dybantsa. And then, much of the talk around Peterson was the 24 games that he played in, the time that he missed. And here is clip 5, Darren Peterson talking about his discussion with Washington, and maybe that was more about him as a person, less so than about him as a player.
I was surprised by how much they wanted to talk about Darren as a person today instead of basketball. I probably asked 2 basketball questions, and the rest was about me. So.
Is there any part of your game you feel is slept on?
I think this year people kind of got away from my playmaking ability just because I was off the ball so much. And when I was feeling well, I think I guarded pretty good as well.
All right, so the first part of that, he was surprised the Wizards asked him all these questions outside of basketball. Taman, he was surprised by that?
Yeah, when I heard that, I was a little thrown off because, you're essentially at a job interview. And I understand you want to know about your game, but who are you?
Yeah, I'm surprised they asked any questions about his game. The game is the one thing I don't have a question about.
Yeah, he's really good. He's a very good basketball player. So who are you?
There's times where I'm like, are you really this delusional?
I think.
What do you mean you're surprised? How do you not hear all the noise around you? What?
I think he might be just very sheltered, and he doesn't probably pay attention to criticism from himself. And I think that probably Shreyas Laddha has brought this up. His camp keeps him away from it.
Yeah. I would say there's no maybe about the sheltered piece, but man, still, despite that, how could you? And I'm not even saying the critics are right. I'm just simply saying, how do you not hear the noise? Of course, the Wizards are going to be asking you about who you are as a person. That's literally the only questions they have. It's the only question anybody has.
Shocked, I tell you.
Yeah, just incredible. Here is Darren Peterson talking about, this is clip 6, how, what happened this past year and where he is athletically.
Yeah, I feel like I'm back at that level now. Obviously, I wasn't where I wanted to be, just with what I had going on, but I feel like I'm back at it now.
What's the difference of being able to get back at it? What's changed for you?
Figuring out what it was, and that kind of helped my mental as well, because when something's wrong, you don't know what it is. It can be rough, so helped my mental figuring out what it was, and then now just getting back to it, feeling good.
All right, so there's Darren Peterson. Will he go 1? Will he go 2? I said it. I'll continue to say it. I still think he goes 1, even though all of the the mock drafts have him going 2. But from the combine, the biggest riser and the biggest winner would probably be Ade Mara. I mean, just ridiculous measurements here. He's 7'3" in socks, has a 9'9" standing reach, which tied for the second longest in NBA combine history. And I think when you couple the measurables with the fact that he's got that rare combination of, unusual passing and post skill for a player of his size, man, I think he could go as high as 5. Like, I know that right now it looks like 5, 6, 7 are going to be point guards, but I just don't know how you pass up a dude that's that size that can pass. Like, and what he just put on film in the tournament this season, like, I don't know how you pass up a dude like that. 9'9" standing reach, and at his size, his passing ability, his rebounding ability, his shot blocking ability. I mean, for me, here's a guy that I think a lot of teams are going to regret passing on if they do. And I'll tell you something, Taman. If you're Mavs at 9, if he's available there, I'd be shocked if he was, but they can't pass him up. Like, this dude, I don't care about fit. I don't care about we have centers, whatever the rationale might be. Like, this is a dude the team should add. I just think what he put on tape, what he did at the combine, the measurables, like, everything jumps at me.
When I look at the Mavericks, I'm not necessarily against it. Derek Lively, their starting center, has had a bunch of injury issues.
Yes, he has.
Daniel Gafford has a very trade-friendly contract, and they're going to need a big man if they decide to trade him maybe for some future
But I don't even think I like him paired with Lively because he to me he's got a skill set that, like, he's not like the other guys that are more of a traditional big skill set. That's why, like, I'm not comparing him to other centers. To me, he's totally unique.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, like, I agree that if that's a player the Mavs may want to consider, considering their center situation. What is Derek Lively's future, and what's Daniel Gafford's future? Will he be on the team next year?
Yeah. Other risers, it's obvious that Cam Carr from Baylor was the clear combine MVP in terms of being a major riser. I think there's no question now that he becomes a lottery pick. We talked about this yesterday, but the plus 8.5 wingspan, in terms of his size versus wingspan, plus 8.5 feet, had 30 points on 6 threes and 3 dunks in their scrimmage, and then a 42.5 max vert, which ties DeBonsa for the highest at the combine. So I think this is a guy that's probably anywhere between 10 and 15 in the draft. Also, Kingston Flemings didn't have the best measurables, but hit 19 of 25 in the 3-point star drill, hit 15 of 25 spot-up threes, and finished top 5 in max vert at 40.5. So, from his size and reach standpoint, didn't test off the charts, but the max vert and the 3-point shooting ability were huge. Here's what Kingston Flemings said about that makes him unique.
Yeah, I think what I do different than the other guards here, because we're all really talented. I think you can put me into any team, and I'm going to make the teammates around me better, whenever I'm playing. If that's driving, kicking, making the team easier, I'm going to learn my teammates. Some people like shooting, come off left, right. Some like shooting off right, left. So really learning what your teammates do and learning what coach wants. Because at the end of the day, when you're the point guard, you got to know everyone's wants and needs. So as a point guard, when I'm learning that and I'm making their life easier, all they got to do is go out there and hoop. And they just got to worry about where the ball's coming from because it's going to be in their pocket when they want it. So.
All right, so there's Flemings. We'll see how high he goes. I certainly think top 10. The biggest fallers from a Big 12 perspective, we've already talked about Koa Pete. Pete could very well be back at Arizona, a guy that, showed at the Combine. He went 6 of 25 in spot-up threes, which was last at the Combine, and 7 of 25 at the 3-point star drill, third to last, and came out with a new shooting motion. So just curious kind of how he's being evaluated by NBA teams. And then Joshua Jefferson from Iowa State also was a faller. He was the slowest pro lane agility time and bottom third results in vertical, sprint time, and shuttle run. He also skipped scrimmages. So, which surprises me. I wonder why, because, you watch his game and you can anticipate that he's not going to be the fastest guy on the floor. Watch him move. But I think the eye in the sky does not lie for Jefferson. I'd be surprised if he fell out of the first round, but if he does, I still think this is a guy that becomes an NBA player. All right, more on the draft on the way. Coming up next, though, it's Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Drew Mestemaker, the Oklahoma State quarterback, followed by our top 5 players on offense. That's all on the way next as we continue here, rolling along on a Friday. It's Big 12 Today, Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios.
How did he get that off? How does McAllister stay up and keep cruising? Unreal! Hoover, McAllister, can you believe it? 2nd and 5, pressure up the gut, looking for it, finding a Paravage. It's McAllister, picking him up, putting him down, touchdown, TC. He's put forward 205-pound transfer from Boise State, has been chopping at the bit to make a play. He goes on the go route, a perfect back shoulder, and the rest is all him. He is striking out down the sideline for a touchdown.
Time for Hoover, delivers a strike. McAllister, off and running. Eric McAllister for the TCU touchdown.
In football, Josh Hoover's going to get it to Eric McAllister on a 5-yard slant. But Jalen Davis Robinson, number 11, or number 13, and Jaden Milner-Jones, number 11, both missed tackles.
McAllister, look out! Eric McAllister, touchdown TCU, 85 touchdown reception this year for McAllister, who's missed some games recently.
What a response. I mean, he just runs right past him. And a perfect throw by Hoover.
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. Let's not waste any time. Let's get right to Drew Mestemaker, Oklahoma State quarterback, one of the top quarterbacks in college football last year at North Texas, transfers to Oklahoma State along with Eric Morris from Vandegrift High School in Austin, Texas. Drew, how are you? Welcome to Big 12 today.
Thank you. I'm doing good. I'm excited to be on here.
Yeah, you were just telling us during the break that you're going to be back in Stillwater in a month or a few weeks, but you're going to Disneyland this weekend.
I am.
That's amazing. So are you going with your girlfriend?
I am. Girlfriend and my mom.
That's fantastic. And so you were saying you've never been to Disneyland before. What about your girlfriend?
She has. Okay. She has been there.
Disney World or Disneyland?
Disneyland.
Okay, so
second
time or the first time. All right. What are you most excited about?
See, I don't really know what to expect, so just along for the ride, I guess.
Are you a roller coaster guy? Like, do you like roller coasters?
Yeah. I used to be a Six Flags guy when I was younger, so I'd always go ride those.
So what, you'd make the trip from Austin up to Dallas, and what was your favorite roller coaster?
Ooh. I remember the Superman one was always awesome.
Yeah. Enjoy it while you can. I used to love roller coasters, and now when I get on them, I get so dizzy. It really sucks. You get older, and you just can't handle it anymore.
Yeah, that's funny.
All right, I mean, your story's been well documented. It's incredible. So let's start with, you arrive at North Texas, walk on. You're a fifth-string quarterback, basically. You end up, as the backup to Chandler Morris that first year. But, just kind of take us through your thought process. You're a walk-on. You hadn't played quarterback in high school, fifth-string quarterback. What was your thought process going on throughout that?
I mean, my thought process, honestly, was just build on my confidence every day, honestly. Because I knew my goal whenever I showed up there was just to try to travel. I just wanted to be on the team and experience college football. And so until about a few months, probably 2 months in, I was like, okay, I can actually compete and I'm meant to be here. I'm not just a walk on here. I'm good enough to be here. And so those first few, honestly, months was just kind of learn as much as I can, take as much as I can from the coaches, from watching Chandler, from watching everyone, even watching the defense play football, and just try to take as much and learn from not getting as many reps as I could.
So you get your first start when Chandler decides to enter the portal. You start the First Responders Bowl, and you put up ridiculous numbers, 293 yards passing. You had a 70-yard touchdown run, 448 total yards. So, okay, before that, what was the last time you started quarterback?
Freshman B team.
Freshman B team.
Yep.
So what?
I will say that freshman B team was probably the best freshman B team there's ever been because we did not let up a point the whole year and won by 40 every game.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So that was a high stakes freshman. As somebody that played in a lot of B teams in my career, I can understand that sounds like a dominant B team.
Yeah.
But you go from freshman year B team starting quarterback to not starting a quarterback until the First Responders Bowl. Was it just what you talked about in terms of the confidence you had built over the course of the season of playing with those guys? I guess what I'm asking is how do you go from all those years of not playing quarterback to starting and playing immediately very well?
I think, honestly, it's the confidence from Coach Morris and the staff and just kind of building me in those weeks before the bowl game of a bunch of team periods, a bunch of live periods, just so I can see everything. And obviously it's not the same as starting a real football game, but I also went out there with the mindset of what do I have to lose? No one knows what to expect out of me. I don't know what to expect out of me. I might as well go out there and rip it. And I feel instead of having the other mindset of, oh, I've never done this before, how am I going to do? You might as well go out there with the mindset of, I might as well just give it all I got and see what happens.
I want to give you credit because obviously Eric Morris gets a ton of credit too, but not just for you, but for many of the quarterbacks that he's helped to develop and coach. But obviously the players themselves, you got to make the plays and you got to do it yourself, right? So Morris can lead you to water, but he can't make you drink in a sense. But what does make Eric Morris so good at developing quarterbacks?
Well, I think, first of all, he makes the quarterbacks comfortable and confident in the offense. Like, if you look at how he called plays for Cam Ward and Chandler Morris and then how he calls plays for me, like, it's different.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same family of plays, but it's different. And then you also, when it's third down, can turn to your right and hand the ball to Caleb Hawkins. Like, that also makes playing quarterback easier too. And so I think just the balance of the offense and how he kind of tailors his play calling to my strengths and every quarterback he's had strengths, it just makes you that much more comfortable out on the field whenever, like, you need a play and you think of a play like, oh, I want him to call this one, and he calls it. Like, that just makes you so comfortable out there.
You know what they're saying about you, right? I mean, now the one knock would be, oh, he's got to do it at this level now, right? Like he's done it at the Group of 5 level, but he's got to do it at this level. So, I mean, what you just described as your mentality in that First Responders Bowl, is that kind of the same mentality here too?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like every football game you kind of got to go out there with that mentality. You can't think about, oh, I've got this name now, I got to play to this name. Like, I mean, I feel like the jump from freshman B team to Group 5 is probably bigger than Group 5 to Big 12. So I've done a big jump before it. So I think obviously these guys are going to be good, and every team every week is going to be good. But I think we just got to prepare like we know how and go out there and play our brand of football.
Yeah, I mean, and look, there are a lot of guys, including coaching staff, coach that come with you from Denton. But there are a lot of new players too. So how do you guys come together? How do you build that chemistry in such a short period of time?
Yeah, I think it was honestly good having so many people come with, because you got obviously the coaches who know the playbook, but then you got 15 guys who can bring all these new guys up to speed, and kind of, at least from the football side of it, I felt like we kind of learned the playbook and adjusted a lot quicker than we usually do, just because we had, a lot of people new, but so many people already knew this playbook. Like, we had guys who transferred away and then came back to Oklahoma State who have been in this playbook before. So we kind of had a lot of guys that know how we operated. And so I think it was good having all those people kind of mesh together and already know how Coach Morris likes to operate and how we like to call the offense and stuff like that. And then with the team chemistry, I feel like Coach Morris does a great job at kind of making it a huge priority for us to, not be on our phones at dinner, sit with someone new, and he does it too. So whenever, it's kind of that lead by example, but he also talks about it. Like, most coaches will be like, all right, yeah, like, go hang out on the outside, like, do whatever. But Coach Morris actually shows up every morning for breakfast, sits with someone new, and so that just kind of builds the culture from there.
We talked a little bit about Morris and his history of developing quarterbacks. How much are you able to be in contact with some of those guys like Patrick Mahomes or Cam Ward or many of the other players that he's coached and helped to develop?
Yeah, I've met Cam Ward before. He'd come by North Texas. I haven't met any of the other guys, but it's pretty cool to just be in that realm of quarterbacks that Coach Morris has coached, and be the next guy up on the list.
I mean, did you have a sense of that when you went to North Texas? Like, this guy has done, and even the guys, like the big name guys, like even a Chandler Morris, like every quarterback he's coached has had like career years when he's coached them.
Yeah. I mean, whenever I got the chance to walk on at North Texas, I didn't really know a lot about North Texas, but Miles Coleman, who I went to high school with, was probably like the best player on our, was the best player on our high school team. So we've been friends for such a long time, and I was excited about the chance to go get to play with Miles because we've grown up our whole lives together. But he was on varsity sophomore year, like all that stuff. I never got to throw to him. And so Miles obviously told me about Coach Morris and how they throw the ball a lot. And I was like, oh, sick. Like, this is going to be awesome. I get to go with someone I already know and to a coach who throws the ball a lot. I was like, what else could I ask for? And then when I got there, I kind of realized, oh, shoot, like this guy really knows what he's doing and like is a really good coach. So I'm so glad that honestly I wouldn't have traded my high school career for anything because it wouldn't have led me to where I am now. And I don't think there's a better coach in the country right now.
We're talking with Drew Mestemaker, Oklahoma State quarterback, here on Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today, in advance of a huge season with high expectations for an Oklahoma State program that hasn't won a Big 12 game in 2 years, which is remarkable for a team under Mike Gundy that was at the top of the Big 12 for such a long period of time. The thing that amazes me about you is, your conviction to continuing to play the quarterback position. I mean, college football is littered with former high school quarterbacks, that decided to transition to playing a different position. The NFL is littered with former high school and college quarterbacks that transition to different positions. Like, why'd you stick to quarterback even in high school? Like, and I know you played safety and you played other positions in high school, punter, but like, how did you know in the back of your mind the entire time and have the confidence that you could, even when you had coaches at the highest level tell you couldn't?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think so. From a young age, I always wanted to play quarterback. Like, that was what I was set on. And so I put in all that work to get to that point, and then for it to, like, get shot down, I was like, all right, I'm not going to do all that quarterback training, watch all these quarterbacks play football, study all these guys just to not play. And so I was like, I'll go anywhere to play quarterback because I knew that I was good enough. I just needed someone to take a chance on me. And so that's all I was looking for. Like, I was ready to go play JUCO football. I was ready to go play D2. I was ready to go wherever. And so I think, I had the confidence in myself, and it was probably some delusional confidence at some points, but I feel like that's honestly what you need. And I just was looking for someone to take a chance on me.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, delusional confidence. That's exactly right. Like, yeah. But it works. And I love the part of, like, you were basically pot committed. If this were poker, it's like, well, I've done all this work at the quarterback, so I'm not just going to give up now. Like,
yeah, 100%.
Did playing quarterback help you as a safety?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you kind of know what the quarterbacks are looking at. And I feel like you can read their eyes better a little bit just because, you know how progressions work, and, if it's a shot play, they're reading you, like you're the one in conflict. So I feel like it helped a little bit.
Does it help the opposite too? Playing safety help you at quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the more football you play and the more football you learn, it kind of helps all across the field. And sometimes I wish I knew what I know now and I could go back and play safety. Like, just so, like, I feel like I could be such a better safety if I knew what I knew now. So I feel like just the more football you play and the more football you're around, the better it helps just everything.
And Drew Mestemaker joining us here. Drew's first season as a college starter with North Texas led the nation in passing yards, and North Texas had the number one scoring offense in the FBS with a 12-2 record, the best in school history. So not a bad start. So what are the expectations at Oklahoma State in year one?
I mean, we have high expectations for the team. We think we can be at the top of the Big 12 at the end of every year. And I feel like that's kind of the reason Coach Morris wanted to be in this conference, is he knows we can compete right away. And so everyone talks about Indiana, and, Indiana's a freaking once-in-a-lifetime team. That team didn't lose a game, and obviously that's the goal for us because that's the goal for every team. Like, no one goes into a year and is like, oh, yeah, let's mark these 2 games down as losses. Like, no one does that. So obviously we think we can win every game, but at the end of the day, we just take it week by week and try to win every day leading up to those games and try to win every game.
And I mean, I'm sure you hear the noise, about you as a draft pick. I mean, some have you for next year's draft pegged as a top 15 pick. So what does that say to you? And is that something you're working towards and something that motivates you?
Yeah, I think, if you would have asked me 2 years ago if I'd be in mock drafts already, I'd tell you you're crazy. But, it's pretty awesome to see that. But also, like, no one's going to want to draft me if I suck this year. So
right.
I got to go out and perform first before any of that happens. But it's pretty cool to see that. I just think, it's a little bit down the road, and I gotta accomplish some things first before I go do that.
Well, and Cam, similar story with Cam Ward, and he becomes the first overall pick. So I mean, it can happen. So what do you have to do this year personally in order to, put yourself in position there? Like, what are the things you had to work on this offseason? How do you get better?
Yeah, I think honestly it was kind of learning these new guys and what every one of them likes, because we got some real guys on the outside, and not saying we didn't in North Texas, but it's different now. And you got real guys, real big time edges coming off the edge, and so I think it's just adjusting to what you can throw at this level and what you can't throw, and what the difference is, and kind of learning what your guys are good at. And everyone thought Miles Coleman, our 5'5" slot, wasn't gonna return kicks for us and everything, and he's going out there and making plays. So it's like guys like that, and obviously Wyatt's playing really good, Caleb's playing really good, and then we get transfers like Justin Boak and Chris Barnes on the outside who are super explosive. Like, I've never thrown to guys like Justin Boak, who can run 23 miles an hour and is 6'5". So it's just guys like that you got to kind of learn what they're good at and how they like their throws and what I want them to do. I feel like that was the biggest adjusting period during the spring.
All right, last one. We're talking with Drew Mestemaker here, Oklahoma State quarterback. It's been a great conversation, and we really appreciate your time. Obviously, you made the right choice, but you were very highly sought after in the portal. Took a visit to Oregon. Did you take less money to go to Oklahoma State?
I mean, I don't know if I can talk about that, but I figured, at the end of the day, every school is going to offer you around the same money. And so I figured I might as well go with the guys that I trust, that trust me, and I've built a relationship with already, that I know, they have their full trust in me. If I throw a pick, I'm not going to come to the sideline and they're going to be like, "What are you doing?" It's not going to be like that. And so I figured at the end of the day, it was the right move to go with the guys that I trust and I've built that relationship with.
One of the best stories in college football, and it's really cool that it continues in the Big 12 at Oklahoma State. Drew Mestemaker, the Oklahoma State quarterback. Drew, thank you so much for your time, man. Congrats on all the success so far, and good luck moving forward, man. We cannot wait to watch you this season.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
There's Drew Mestemaker joining us here on Big 12 Radio. Great stuff. Incredible story and extremely mature. I don't know if I can answer that. But, basically saying, the money's pretty equal, right? We're talking about lots of money here across the board. Maybe he took less to go to Oklahoma State, but it's negligible. And quite frankly, as he said, he knows what to expect from this staff. He's got a bunch of his former teammates with him. Caleb Hawkins, Wyatt Young. It's going to be a lot of fun. Oklahoma State's going to be very, very good this year. I have no doubt about that. And it's probably a team that, we talk about at the top of the conference, BYU and Texas Tech and Houston and Utah and Arizona. It's funny because as much hype as Oklahoma State's getting, we're probably sleeping on them too. This is Big 12 Radio. Big 12 Today. We are presented by
Gilkey off the hands of Record and intercepted. Genesis Smith, the safety, inside the 15.
Sorsby was. He throws. It's Cyrus Allen, and they rally to swing him down. Genesis Smith with great speed to the perimeter.
It's on the ground. It's fumbled. Picked up by Arizona. And going the other way inside the 5-yard line, Genesis Smith.
We have finally made it to the end in our continuing Modelo offseason football coverage. We've been ranking the top 5 players in every position. I mean, breaking it down from defensive line, defensive end, safety, corner, linebacker, tight end, wide receiver, interior offensive line, tackle, quarterback, running back, top defensive players, top specialists, and now we get the top offensive players. We'll start our Road to Arlington series on Monday, but we got to conclude it with the top 5 offensive players in the Big 12 heading into this 2026-2027 season. James isn't here, but we have this list. Taman Turner will be playing the role of James today and reading each of his picks for his list. So let's start with James. Taman, give me the top, the number 5 player for James on his list in terms of offensive players.
At number 5, James has Joe Cotton.
The offensive tackle from Cincinnati. And I like where James's head is at in terms of, this could easily become a top 5 quarterbacks list, which we already did. And so finding variety across the board on offense to find players at different positions is a good move. And Cotton's a great add there. So Joe Cotton, number 5, the offensive tackle, maybe the best offensive tackle in the Big 12 in a grouping of really good tackles. A really important piece to Cincinnati's potential success this year. Joe Cotton checks in at number 5. Number 5 for me is also not a quarterback, and that would be Houston wide receiver Amari Thomas. For the sake of variety, I think Amari Thomas is one of the more important players for Houston this season. We've talked a lot about Connor Wigman taking the next step. Well, Thomas will be a big reason if Wegman's able to take the next step for him to doing that. 67 catches, 966 yards, 12 touchdowns last year. 9 of those 12 came when he was lined up in the slot, which was the most of any receiver in college football in 2025. And then how about this? His final 4 regular season games of 2025, 28 receptions, 371 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So 5 of his 12 total touchdowns came in the final 4 regular season games. And look, the way he finished the season, I think there's tons of optimism for this year. And I think he really put himself on NFL radars with the way that he finished the season. For a guy that a couple years ago was out of UAB to finish the season the way he did at Houston, the Power 5 level is remarkable, and then returning to Houston as well. And look, here's a guy, I think with Willie Fritz, he did a really good job of finding guys that have those Houston roots that wanted to come home, and Amari Thomas is one of those. The reason for me that Thomas earns the number 5 spot over some of the other offensive players, including quarterbacks that you could have ranked 4th or 5th on this list, is that he's the best non-quarterback offensive weapon in the Big 12 on a title contender. Maybe aside from one of my guys that's higher on this list, with the same quarterback entering a season explicitly designed to be more explosive. So it's the complete package here for Amari Thomas. This is a combination of what you did last year and projecting out for 2026. All right, Taman, who does James have number 4?
At number 4, he has the guy we just heard here on Big 12 Radio, Oklahoma State quarterback Drew Mestemaker.
All right, so Drew Mestemaker did not crack my top 5. I do have multiple quarterbacks, and you'll find out one of my quarterbacks checking in at number 4 here. But Mestemaker, look, he put up the best numbers in the country last year. He was number 1 in most quarterback statistics. North Texas's offense was top in college football in most statistics, easy for me to say. And so I get the pick. I think there's a lot of optimism. We, in the first segment of today's show, kind of documented how they put together the roster, but Wyatt Young from North Texas comes with them. Caleb Hawkins from North Texas at running back comes with them. So, I can totally see why Drew Mestemaker would be number 4. We have totally different lists here. This is great. Number 4 for me is Noah Fafita, the Arizona quarterback. He's a throwback. Just one of 5 seniors or redshirt senior scholarship quarterbacks in 2026 who have remained their entire careers at one FBS school. So he's a total throwback here. And his offensive coordinator, Seth Dagey, entering year 2 with him. First time in his time at Arizona that Fafita enters the season with the same offensive coordinator from the previous year. Dagey called Fafita, quote, the best quarterback he's ever been around, and Dagey's been around some good ones. He noted that Fafita picked up their new system faster than any quarterback he's ever coached, and that speaks volumes as he's entering year 2 with Dagey. Fafita, very smart, 1.9% turnover-worthy play rate, tied for 8th nationally, and 26 big-time throws, tied for 12th, if you like some of those deep analytics. And he leads all active college quarterbacks with 73 career touchdown passes and is one of the most experienced quarterbacks in the country entering his 4th year as a starter. So Noah Fafita for me, number 4.
At number 3, James has the speedy Cameron Dickey from Texas Tech.
Interesting. All right, so our lists are totally different. He starts off with 3 players that I do not have in my top 5. But look, Cameron Dickey, and you could argue again for all 3 of these guys to make the list. He's the leading rusher, at Texas Tech, returning in a busy backfield, and a guy that wasn't even on the radar for people and analysts a year ago. He burst onto the scene. He's a legit 3-down back. And look, while Quentin Joyner returns with Jacoby Williams, he's still a hugely important piece for Texas Tech's success heading into this all-important year. Number 3 for me is Bear Bachmeier, the BYU quarterback. I might have him too high, especially given what I just said about Fafita. At 4, I have Fafita, who has 73 career touchdown passes and is basically leading all active quarterbacks. Bachmeier, for me, it's all about the context, and I've talked a lot about this, but the fact that he put up the numbers that he put up last year, despite being a true freshman who spent spring at Stanford, so it's a balance of what you did and what I project out for you in 2026. I think this is the heavy riser here. For a guy that they built their offense, Aaron Roderick built BYU's offense sort of to evolve slowly with Bear Bachmeier. It was built around short and intermediate pass concepts, which helped to protect Bachmeier again as a true freshman who didn't even spend spring football in Provo. I cannot wait to see what this offense looks like. It should be a lot more explosive just in terms of his ability to make plays down the field with his arm. And look, the dude is a gamer. I mean, he just shows up in big moments, help them win multiple games, taking the extra yardage, breaking tackles with his legs, a legitimate dual threat who makes the right play, even as a 17-year-old true freshman this past year. Bear Bachmeier, for me, checks in at number 3.
At number 2, James has the throwback, Noah Fafita from Arizona.
All right, so we do now finally have one player that's the same here. All the way to number 2. I have Fafita at 4. He's got Fafita at 2. I'm assuming, well, I can't assume that he's going to have the same number 1 as me. No, he's going to have L.J. Martin at number 1. And L.J. Martin is my number 2. Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. Led the conference in rushing, 1,300 yards rushing. Second nationally in the PFSN RB impact metric. Would have been probably a day 2, day 3 pick. Turn that down to return to BYU, who returns the same quarterback, similar offensive line, and the same system on a 12-2 team that's a legitimate contender. And the historical piece here with L.J. Martin is he needs just 1,300 yards just to become BYU's all-time leading rusher. Jamal Williams' record, he would break it with 1,355. So there's historical context here, but I've got both Bear Bachmeier and L.J. Martin back-to-back on my list of top 5 offensive players in the Big 12, and for good reason. Those two together are a big reason why a lot of people expect BYU to compete at the top of the Big 12. All right, I'm assuming L.J. Martin is number 1 for James?
Ding, ding, ding. Number 1 is L.J. Martin from BYU.
Yeah. So James and I have 2 players the same on our lists. James went, as I did, going for variety. He only has 2 quarterbacks on his list. I have 3 quarterbacks on my list, and I'll get to the third in a moment here. He has an offensive tackle. I had a wide receiver. He does not have a wide receiver. So looking for some variety across the board. Now, I would disagree with Cotton because I don't know how good Cincinnati is going to be when I think about, ranking these players. Some of it is how important will they be on in terms of having a role to, helping a team win championships, but I digress. Sorsby for me, number 1. Again, I know people in the comments are going to be like, hey, we don't know about his eligibility. I am banking on eligibility here because it's not even about Sorsby hiring Kessler. It's more that Kessler took it on, and I think the possibilities that Kessler sees as a lawyer representing him. 7,000 yards, 60 touchdowns, and fewer than 25 interceptions in his career. He's also rushed for 1,000-plus yards and 22 touchdowns. And then his 2025 season was a statement. 36 total touchdowns, tied for 3rd nationally, and he owned the longest active streak of 2+ touchdown games among FBS quarterbacks, accounting for at least 2 touchdowns in 12 straight games. So, big-time player here, Brendan Sorsby. And again, the fact that he was being recruited and being sought after by LSU, Miami, Indiana, for me, are the reason why he's the number 1 offensive player in the Big 12. All right, that wraps a bow around our top 5 offensive players and our top 5 series. Next week, we do the road to Arlington, breaking down each and every team. On the way next, though, let's get the 50,000-foot view of the Big 12 from Dan Rubenstein of Solid Verbal. It's Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios.
And he scrambles. Romaine was in his face. He throws a pick. Interception for Gunnar Maldonado. Again, what might be the best 170 college football.
morning, Dan. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing well.
Of course. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Just to let you know real quick, we just went to a break. We're going to be coming back in about 3.5 minutes.
Cool.
And then right before we come back, we're going to be doing audio and
Love to hear it. Great.
What's up, Dan? How are you? Sorry, I
Good.
I got to break late. Apologies on that.
How's life with you?
Good, man. How about you?
Not too bad. It's finally going to be a little bit nice here.
Yeah.
Play outside, kids. You know, it's nice.
Yeah, I was watching the White Sox game. It's like they've been wearing lots of jackets. It's like, damn. How cool
They
is
have
that?
been wearing lots of jackets. I think it's maybe 70s today, and then I think we're finally at least into like 70s, 60s. Look, it's only 6-7 months of miserable weather. Like, when you can take that, you know, why wouldn't you? But otherwise, life is good. Making a lot of food, you know.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't seen a lot of pizzas for you lately, but am I just not? Are you just not showing up?
Oh,
on
I'm
my-
not really on Twitter anymore.
Good for you.
Yeah, it's just sort of like, I was like, every time I'm on there, I'm like, I'm bummed out.
Yeah. 100%, and it's designed that way.
Yeah. So I don't really do that too much. I do it with the show and like strictly follow like college football accounts a little bit, but not too much more than that. No, I've been making weekly pizzas. I've been doing a lot more sourdough. I've been refining like a very specific brown butter chocolate chunk cookie recipe.
Wow.
A little flaky sea salt on top. So that has made me very popular around here.
Does your wife cook?
Not at all. Not in the slightest. So I do all the cooking for the family, and then when we have people over and stuff, it's all me too.
So how long have you been in Chicago now?
It'll be basically 6 years this summer.
Oh wow.
We moved out in the middle of COVID, be closer to wife's family.
Yep.
And I like the people a lot. I think the people are great. I like our town. I'm in Wilmette.
As you
just
say,
above
Wilmette,
Evanston.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You close to the lake?
Not like, we're not in East Wilmette, but I mean,
You're not like
close enough.
You're
where
not on
it's like-
Sheridan Road?
We're not on Sheridan Road. We don't have. I was actually going for a walk with my wife on Sheridan, and she started like doing like the scream but not talking, like scream mouthing, and we were walking. I didn't realize that we were walking right behind Ricketts, Tom Ricketts, and I was like, okay. I was like, you lived in New York, you saw famous people,
Right,
you know, to be cool.
You walk on Sheridan Road, you're about to see lots of billionaires.
Yes. No, we don't. We live west of Green Bay.
Okay, yeah. Close to downtown or still further west?
Close to downtown Wilmette.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're walkable to downtown Wilmette.
That's great.
Like it's like 10-12 minute walk. It's great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
No, it's an awesome town. It's like 4-minute drive to the lake, and it's great over summer. Yeah, and it's close enough to the city.
Right. Agreed.
Like if you go to like Logan Square or something for dinner, it's like 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Not bad at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, kind of the best of both worlds, if such a thing exists.
Yeah, I always
Are you
said,
still Dallas?
Yeah, Dallas.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's nice here, but it's getting in the 90s now, so it's where it's like.
Yeah, you have the flip issue.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so annoying too because it can literally be 90 and then in 2 days it'll be like 61 degrees.
Yeah.
It's like a 30-degree drop.
And we had some like really unseasonably nice weather here the last couple weeks with like 60s, which it's usually
Mhm.
in the 90s firmly by now.
Right.
But yeah, now and then it's like it gets to a point where, and I'm sure you saw this growing up in Cali, where it's like, you get sick of like now it's the time of year where it's like you've got to be in a pool, but then
Yes.
you go a few months later and it's like you're sick of it because the pools have like just been baking in the sun and humidity.
Yep.
So it's like you're just like in a warm bath.
It's not fun.
Yeah.
See, at least in LA and the Valley and stuff, we had the option to go to the beach
Right.
where it would always be like 15, 20 degrees cooler.
Right. Right.
So it would be 81 when the Valley was 100 degrees.
Hey, Dan.
So that
real-
was nice.
Hey, real quick. We have 15 seconds and we're going to be coming back here.
Okay.
You're listening to Big 12 Radio on TuneIn.
Big 12 Today with Ari and James. Your home for interviews, analysis, and all things Big 12. This is Big 12 Radio on TuneIn.
It's Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. And, there are a lot of college football podcasts, but in my opinion, none better than The Solid Verbal. Dan Rubenstein from The Solid Verbal joining us here on Big 12 Radio. And nobody brings it in terms of creativity, great insight into the sport, into the teams, and hilarity, quite like Dan and Ty. What's up, Dan? How are you?
Wow, what an intro. That's almost walk-up music before hitting third in the lineup kind of intro. I'm good. Thanks for having me. A joy as always. Love talking Big 12.
I aim to please. All right, so, from the 50,000-foot view here of the Big 12, because you cover it all, from the SEC all the way down to the Sun Belt, give us your sense of the conference this year, of what you guys have been discussing this offseason and the big storylines around the Big 12.
It's a really interesting reset year for the Big 12, and I don't mean to say it's an interesting rebuild year, because I think there are, when you look at the schools involved that should look competitive and fun and interesting, it's a reset in terms of, and unfortunately maybe because of the Brendan Sorsby story, a reset in terms of who is competitive, why they're competitive, and we've talked up Houston a little bit. We obviously saw the emergence of Arizona last season making a move to being a more competitive squad. BYU obviously continues to be in that conversation. I expect very strong things from Texas Tech regardless, but we don't know what to expect from a team like Kansas State. We don't know what to expect from a team like Oklahoma State, two teams who have been very competitive, the past, decade, 2 decades, whatever in this conference. And so I think that's kind of fun and interesting that we get some of those resets, or whoever's going to be that new emerging danger.
Yeah, no, well said. Of those teams, who are you most excited about? Who are you most anticipating, a turnaround? And why is it Oklahoma State?
Why is it Oklahoma State? It's Oklahoma State because they have a quarterback that teams seem to be willing to pay millions upon millions of dollars. And not that he's not making a good living for the Cowboys in Stillwater, but when your starting point is quarterback with huge upside, and the mystery of bringing in the last count I saw was 417 new players for Oklahoma State. Is that the official number of portal guys they've brought in?
Give or take a few.
Give or take. So you have mystery, you have quarterback upside, you have a coach who seems to be well regarded on the come up, and you have an exciting weird place in Stillwater, Oklahoma. So I don't know that they are emerging as a team that's going to compete for this conference. I suspect they won't, but I think they're emerging as an entertaining team. And if anybody has sort of watched in detail Oklahoma State football these past couple seasons, those moments have been fewer and further between than usual. So yeah, I think they have the capacity and potential to be going from sadness to exciting.
Yeah.
That's good.
You mentioned Sorsby. I'm at the point where I think he's going to play this year. I think Kessler takes Jeffrey Kessler, the famed lawyer that's taking on this case. He doesn't lose, especially against the NCAA. And I feel like Kessler hired Sorsby as much as Sorsby hired Kessler. So I don't know if he's not going to play 12 games, but I think he's going to play. What's your read on the situation, and what's your opinion on whether or not he should play?
I don't have a strong opinion. My read on it is it's sort of sad that, this is a reality of the world in which we live, in which, there are specific vices like wagering on sports that have become easier and easier to fall into a trap within, especially with the prevalence of how easy it is. Especially young men seem to be able to or are unable to avoid some of those pitfalls. And I feel for him. I like that he is accountable. I like that he's seeking out help. I'm sure that there is unless there is some sort of smoking gun about something he did that would question his integrity as a college athlete. And, we saw the stories about wagering on Cincinnati football while he was there, never against Cincinnati football. I imagine because the NCAA takes the losses that they take, and I imagine because Texas Tech is very important to the Big 12, I imagine that there will be a path for him to see the field. I don't know if there's a suspension until that point that's going to be negotiated, but I'm just sort of taking the tact where it was like, I hope this is a cautionary tale for others in this situation.
Right.
And I hope that he is able to sort of get the help that he's seeking and comes out of this on a better side of things.
Yeah, no, well said. Just across college football this year, not even just specific to the Big 12, like what are you most excited about? What are the biggest storylines you're excited about?
I love that there are so many familiar quarterbacks. You can take your pick and who's good, who's not good. I love that, and for all of the sort of things that people complain about with the NIL era and the portal era, we have continuity at big places, at perhaps somewhat big places. You look at the quarterbacks across the country, and C.J. Carr and Lenoris Sellers and Dante Moore and Julian Sayin and Arch Manning, that you look across the landscape, Avery Johnson, right, that seems to have been there forever, and it almost feels like a vintage or retro type feeling that we have this familiarity in a world where there's so much roster change. We have the quarterbacks all over the place. I also love that there's no clear and obvious favorite 1, 2, or 3 teams, that there is a mystery to even the top teams, that, and some of that's portal driven, and some of that is just these teams are just, they lose a ton of depth. Even the favorites that we perceive to be top 3, top 5, top 12 or whatever, that they're all losing depth. They all have open questions about key factors of their team, and I kind of love that. I kind of love going into a season where it's just like, oh yeah, these two teams are obviously going to meet in the championship game, and so like you have the Curt Cignetti return to, like, are they again a national title contender with fewer James Madison kids and a new quarterback? Once again, 3 quarterbacks in 3 seasons. But you look at what he gets out of that team, and you look at the continuity on that staff, I think has been crucial to their success. I like a universe in which the top of the sport seems wide open, and you have like mysteries across big programs, medium-sized programs, right? The new coaches in the SEC, a new coach at Penn State. I like all of those things. I think it's good for the sport. There are things that I don't love, and the player movement hurting how fans connect to rosters, I think is kind of a bummer. But in this specific year, I kind of love the ability to shrug and say, yeah, like maybe Michigan's awesome with Kyle Whittingham, but maybe they're 7-5.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a bunch of people in Salt Lake that kind of hope for the latter more than
I'm
the former.
sure.
And I'm sure there's some that are rooting for him to be successful, but it's just been a weird year in that way. Dan Rubenstein, Solid Verbal Podcast, joining us here. Verballer. Is it verballers.com?
Verballers.com for the extra bonus content. The subscribers via Patreon are on verballers.com.
As an independent shop, I would encourage people to check it out, especially because one of my favorite things about Solid Verbal is, equal opportunity. You're not loaded with SEC and Big Ten coverage like most of the other publications are and podcasts are. You're talking about everybody across the board, and you celebrate the sport, which, I think is lost in this day and age of constant playoff discussions and measurables. And so that's why I wanted to ask you about the 24-team playoff or 16-team playoff.
Sure.
I start the intro there by saying, like, again, we're in a world now where everything revolves around the playoff and every conversation revolves around the playoff, and I think that has diminished the beauty of the sport, as I know you share as well, and you and Ty talk about that. But shed some light on that. What's your feeling on the 24-team or 16-team playoff, and how off-putting is it that the fate of our favorite sport here is basically between Fox and ESPN's wishes here?
Yeah, no, I hear you, and I will never push back on anybody who is bummed out about a 24-team playoff, a 16-team playoff. My only pushback is whatever, if it's good, if it's not, like, we never are going to fully understand the repercussions of decisions until we're actually faced with them. Like, we can't predict.
Yeah.
We couldn't predict what the BCS would do. We couldn't predict what a 4-team, a 12-team would do. We couldn't predict what realignment would improve and what realignment would hurt with the sport. And so I'm trying to have an open mind because we all predict terrible things, and sometimes we get cool things out of it. My general feeling is this sport is always changing. It's a sport that's been defined by change, and if the changes that happened within NIL or portal or realignment or broadcasting stuff truly affected you, you wouldn't be listening to this show in May, right? This is a show talking about college football months upon months ahead of the season.
Yeah.
So whatever college football has done wrong, it's kept you along for the ride. It's done enough. I would tell people who are feeling, sad about the potential to have like an extra long postseason and are, a postseason that's trying to be more like the NFL or other professional sports, that, I don't know, if you feel like it's going to ruin the regular season, I guess try it on for size and see how the regular season feels if we do move to a model with more teams in the postseason. My other bit of advice would just lean into the human aspect of the sport, right? If you're bummed out by a huge playoff, plan more watch parties with your friends. Plan more tailgates. Plan more nights out on a Thursday or Friday night when your team is playing at a sports bar, and maybe don't worry so much about the bad that could happen. Worry about connecting with humans in your life and splitting some jalapeno poppers or, smoking a brisket overnight, whatever it takes for you to sort of use college football as a vehicle to hang out with people instead of using it as a vehicle to say everything is bad. How could they do this to me?
Yeah. Don't forget about the lifeblood of it, right? The pageantry,
sure.
The friendships, the connections. Totally right. Well said.
Because your favorite time with this sport is not I'm guessing here, but your favorite time with the sport is not necessarily, this was a great season for our team. This was a great season for our team, and I got to watch it with my dad. I got to watch it with my cousins who are, degenerates. I got to watch it with my kids for the first time, and it was so cool that I got to watch. I kept them up late past their bedtime to watch Texas football or Utah football or something like that. So I don't know. You remember those, you can build those core memories via the sport, and it's not necessarily because you fell in love with like a cornerback once.
What do you guys have coming up? I know you guys do a lot of great series throughout the off season. So what's on tap here for Solid Verbal?
It's a good question. We've been doing vibe checks. We've done Big 10, Big 12, and SEC with various guests. We want to do an episode leaning into what is actually still good about the sport and will be hard to kill about the sport as sort of a counter to the doomerism. So I think that'll be a fun episode. Previews start in July, which we're not terribly far off of. So behind the scenes, we're trying to learn where everybody is once again after the portal.
Yeah.
And no, I think, we do an episode, an annual episode called Sark Tank, where we pitch Andy Staples from On3 on various takes that we'll have ahead of the season. And he decides whether he's going to invest emotional capital in our predictions and takes.
And for that reason, I'm out. Go check out Solid Verbal Podcast, solidverbal.com and verballers.com. Dan, you're the best. Thank you very much. Take care.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Dan Rubenstein, Solid Verbal, joining us here on Big 12 Radio. It's Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, and watched on Big 12 Studios. On the way next, Taman wrote down something, and I can't wait to hear what this is about. It's Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio.
Pressure, Flores felt it, and he's brought down by Jackie Marshall. Quarterback draw, and Crittenton runs into a wall. Jackie Marshall.
All the two defensive tackles in the middle really do work. Number 0, Jackie Marshall, the quickness and aggressiveness right there to disengage from that block and get that tackle for loss.
Down and 7, middle run. That had the look of a 4-down play sequence. We'll see if they are going for 4 down below the 35 of Baylor.
Baylor's defense has been able to do.
Love it. Blitz coming. It could have been worse. Jackie Marshall finally will get credit for the sack.
Jackie Marshall, just watch him, not truly rushing, right? Kind of just waiting to see what he does. He corrals him, grabs that right leg, and puts him to the ground.
Little play action. Hoover eyes downfield. His dump at the last moment to Rodgers. He has himself a ball game, even if he plays going that 3rd down. Really does a nice job.
It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. Taman Turner producing today's show, helping to fill in for James Wessling, who's back on Monday. Jamie Plunkett talks the final series of the baseball season with us coming up in about 15 minutes from now. And, you know, every day when we put the show together, it's a combined effort of Taman, James, and myself, where we put topics on the rundown, and we'll kind of all go through it and figure out where things should go and what maybe could be moved to a different day or removed entirely. So, you know, I'm going through the rundown last night and looking at some of the topics, and so I see for this segment, money. And I see money, competition, and media rights all remain central to debate surrounding CFP expansion. And then Taman writes, ESPN may win the battle but lose the war. And I was intrigued. There wasn't a link. There normally is. And so my thought was, all right, what is this about? So Taman, what is this about?
So Ian Miller from Outkick and Fox wrote an article called ESPN is reportedly preventing the college football playoff from expanding to 24 teams. And I thought it was interesting because we were talking yesterday about TV rights, media rights, and how this is all coming back to money because the Big 12 and the ACC want a 24-team playoff and the SEC wants a 16-team playoff. And
by the way, it's not exactly reportedly because the ACC commissioner came out and said ESPN does not want to expand past 16
Correct.
teams.
Yeah, Jim Phillips did openly, publicly say that, the ACC commissioner. So it was interesting because the ESPN article kind of the Outkick article kind of talked about what we said about ESPN yesterday, that they don't have a motive to do it, blah, blah, blah. But it was interesting that at the end of the article, he wrote that where this ends up is anyone's guess, but it's hard to see ESPN winning out in the long run relative to the power of those other conferences. So it made me think of the question, does the Big 12, the ACC, the Big 10, who all support a 24-team playoff, will they do a pressure campaign that ESPN may have this win in the short term, but in the long term, they're going to have to give in? Because it's going to go public, and this might get ugly.
Yeah. I mean, look, far be it from me to not paint the SEC as the bad guy here, but I also think, like, it's worth a discussion. You know, I am, as I talked about yesterday, I'm an advocate of the 24-team playoff. I think not only makes sense for the Big 12, but it makes sense in general. But I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that, like, because what you have here is ESPN on one side, Fox on the other side. And so Fox wants expansion because they want in on the playoffs. ESPN doesn't want expansion to 24 because they don't want to lose their majority ownership of the playoff. But who's to say that ESPN or Fox are the right side of this, right? Like, it's, to me, painting the SEC and ESPN as bad here probably diminished the role that the wants of Fox and the Big Ten.
I have to ask because obviously the SEC wants it to go to 16, but they think 24 is too far. Where does the SEC bend, and how does that correlate back to the media rights and the media companies?
Well, and again, I mean, the motivations for the Big Ten in a 2014 playoff are as transparent as the motivations behind ESPN's and the SEC's not wanting 24 teams. So I think, like, that is clear, right? So it's basically two warring networks at this point behind the playoff. So, like, that to me just the motivations for Fox are they want to get playoff inventory. So if they get to 24, they'd get to a point where they get playoff inventory. And ESPN doesn't want to give up their exclusive ownership of the inventory, right? So, again, like, who's to say who's right and who's wrong here? And we could paint the picture and say the SEC is wrong because everybody else agrees 24 teams works, except that it's basically just the Big 10 and then the ACC and the Big 12, which want more access, obviously, and then all the coaches in the SEC because of course they do. All the coaches in the SEC want more teams because of course they do. They're coaches. They want to keep their jobs, and making a playoff with more teams helps them in that. But Greg Sankey's on an island with ESPN saying, you know, we don't want to expand because ESPN doesn't want to lose their exclusivity of the playoff. Again, I think the idea that one's bad or one's good misses the whole point here. We have to look at the motivations, and both are motivated for their own self-interest here. Everybody's motivated by their own self-interest and probably should be. So let's go back to your question here, which is, at what point does the SEC bend? Do they have to? Is it inevitable?
I don't know if they have to, because it feels like they might have leverage a little bit.
Well, I mean, there's two deciding arms here, right? Like, as much as we want to say that the Big 12 and the ACC are involved in decision-making, the ultimate decision-makers here are the Big 10 and the SEC. So they probably have equal power, which is the reason we're here.
Right.
The reason there hasn't been a decision, we haven't had expansion.
Right. So who blinks first? It's a game of poker. Who blinks first?
I don't see. I could see, like, okay, on the SEC side, it's exclusive inventory, and then also the SEC championship, right?
Which they don't want to give that up.
Well, why would they?
Yeah,
it's a cash cow for them.
Absolutely.
And they're not incentivized to add more revenue for everybody else.
Right. That's not their objective. That's not their goal. They could care less about everybody else.
Let me ask you something, Taman, and this is an unanswerable question here, but I'm curious for your perspective on it. What's in the best interest of the sport, which is something that people seem to think is important to talk about?
I think what's best for the sport is what's the best product that fans will enjoy. The fans do not care about the money situation, the TV rights deals. They don't care about that. They just want a good product on the field that's going to be fair. And I understand that there's going to be a notion that I don't think there will ever be a perfect system. People will always debate, oh, there should be this many teams, that many teams. That's always going to be. It was like that pre-college football playoff when there was the BCS, and we talked about it yesterday about how, people were living in nostalgia in all those days, right? But I think that everybody wants the most fair product that they can enjoy when they're watching their football games on Saturdays.
Yeah, I think the 24-team playoff is the best option in terms of the best thing for the sport. Now, the people in decision-making don't care about what's in the best interest of the sport. I think that's obvious. They're all in it for the best interest of themselves. And if they say anything differently, they're lying, right? The Big 12's looking out for the Big 12. The ACC's looking out for the ACC. The Big 10's looking out for the Big 10. Notre Dame's looking out for Notre Dame, and the SEC's looking out for the SEC, right? But for me, what's the best for college football would be the one that has the most teams getting in, which has the most access. Now, how much access does it actually translate to? Time will tell, and probably not as much as we anticipate, because it's still about the SEC and the Big 10, because they're the ones in power. But I mean, if you want to keep the most fans engaged through the majority of the season to think that their team has a shot, the 24-team playoff is it.
I 100% agree. And I was thinking about it because I saw a bracket yesterday of what a potential 24-team playoff would have looked like with this year's teams. And I just think about how, like, in that first round, how many potential upsets there could be, which would be really fun. It would be like, I look at it as, going into March Madness, we always look at the top tier teams, but we always watch that first or second round for those upsets. I could see some upsets happening in a first round like that, and fans would love that. It would be great. That's what is a fun product, because who doesn't like a good upset?
So, I mean, the question here kind of remains: what would be the impetus for somebody to concede here? And as much as it looks like the majority now favors the 24-team field, remember, it was a year ago that it was swung the opposite way. A year ago, the ACC and the Big 12 were about the 16-team field and, didn't have as much knowledge about a 24-team field, and now it's flipped the other way. It could flip back the other way just as quickly. So what would be the impetus for it? I don't know. It does feel like the ACC and the Big 12 won't change because, again, more access is better. And the ACC and the Big 12 are always going to be about more access. So I don't know that it flips back to 16, but I just don't know, and we'll have to ask Brett Yormark this when we have him on next week. Brett will join us in studio on Wednesday, but I do wonder, like, genuinely, how much power does the Big 12 have in this? And how much say do they have? I mean, they certainly do have a seat at the table and a higher seat than most other conferences, but not as high of a seat as the SEC and the Big 10.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good question to ask the commissioner. I think he'll hopefully can. I'm sure he'll bring some insight into it.
But what do you think would be the impetus for a change? Because at this point, with both of these conferences fighting for their own respective networks here, nobody's going to give. So it stays at 12. So what's the impetus for change? Just inevitable?
I think it would have to happen next season. Something would have to happen to an SEC team to not make the play, or a Big Ten team that they think should make the playoffs who didn't make the playoff, that would really bug them. Kind of like we had BYU not make the playoffs this year, and everybody here thinks that BYU should have made it. It has to be a scenario like that where there's an SEC or a Big Ten team that they feel strongly should have made the playoff but didn't make the playoff.
Yeah, and I mean, I think most people, if you polled them, would say that this thing eventually does go to 16 and then eventually to 24.
Let me ask you this on that point. BYU, if I'm not mistaken, they finished ranked last season, 12, 13, give or take?
Sounds right.
If Ohio State or Indiana finished at 12 or 13, or Alabama finished at 12 or 13, and didn't make the college football playoff, would there be outcry from the SEC or the Big Ten?
Well, there was a couple of years ago with Bama.
Right. But knowing with what we know now with this college football playoff expansion talk to 16 or 24, if it happened next or this coming season, if one of those two teams missed the playoffs, what would be the outcry now, knowing that there's public outreach from both the Big 12 and the ACC? We need to expand more because the Alabama fans are going to be mad. The Ohio State fans are going to be mad. They're saying we should have made the playoff. We finished 11-1 or 12-1 or whatever, and we didn't make the playoff.
Well, but that's just not going to happen. Like, so the rankings are based on who you are, right? We know that. So, like, and this is why you can't take last year's top 25 and project to the 2014 playoff, because the top 25 would have looked completely differently.
Right.
And if we think that having a 2014 playoff versus a 12-team playoff wouldn't be enough to change the rankings, we're lying to ourselves. The rankings in a 2014 playoff last year would have made the top 25 look a lot different. That's the reality of it.
Very true.
So it's a tough question to answer because, like, any big-time program in the SEC or the Big Ten that finds itself in that spot would have to probably be at 3 losses. I mean, that was what Bama was a couple of years ago. They got left out, right? Bama was complaining about not being in the playoff a couple of years ago with 3 losses.
Yeah.
Ohio State is not missing any playoff with 1 loss. No Big Ten team or SEC is missing any playoff with 1 loss. I think Bama had 3 losses a couple of years ago. So, like, that's where the complaints come from. And they were on the cusp even with 3 losses.
Right.
And some bad losses at that.
I just feel like at some point there's going to be a scenario where this is the talk of the town and something happens where there will be outcry from the Big Ten or from the SEC.
Yeah, but the Big Ten already wants 24 teams, right? So they're already crying for more teams and more access. The SEC wants less access.
Fair.
Okay, they were 9-4.
And this was in 24 or 23?
24.
24.
And they were finished 11th in the final college football playoff.
That would never happen for any other team in the Big 12 or the Big 10.
See what I mean?
If a Big 12 team had 4 losses, they wouldn't be ranked.
Now, they had 3 losses in the regular season. They lost in the Rely Quest Bowl because nobody played.
Yeah.
But again, like, there was an argument that was being made about Bama being in the playoff with 3 losses. So I just don't know how to answer your question about, like, the impetus would have to be somebody big being left off, because that's just not going to happen. Because even when teams do get left out, like, it almost seems like there's no way. It would have been foolish to think of them as being a playoff team as it is. Like, if you're not at double-digit wins before a bowl game, if you play for a conference championship game or you've got 10 wins before that, like, you should be in the playoff discussion. If you don't, that feels a little off. Now, in a 2014 playoff, you're going to have 8-win teams get in. So it does absolutely diminish the regular season.
Right.
But at this point, it almost doesn't matter.
So I think back to the article's point, at the end it said, we don't know what the long term will be, but ultimately the conferences will have to say. So is ESPN, they're okay now, but if something changes, we don't know what that change will be, but if something changes, ESPN will have to give in, right?
Maybe. I mean, it's why.
Do you see a scenario where ESPN would give in? And what would that scenario be if you do?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so I think what ESPN would want is to go to 16 and then to 24 so that they can maintain control. Because if you go from 12 to 24, you're going to be giving up inventory. I think you go from 16 to 24, it's justifiable that you'd still have the full boat, potentially. What would force ESPN to have to give in? I don't know. I mean, Apple, Amazon, Netflix coming to the table. Apple or Amazon have so much more money than Disney.
By far.
So maybe the only way for this would be for a larger business to come in and basically pay a ridiculous amount of money that nobody could match, including Disney. And that basically, I mean, either forces them to compromise or it's like, well, we're just going to buy the whole thing. And sorry, you're not in it anymore. And completely remove. Wow. I think if ESPN was faced with a situation where like somebody big would come in that would be outbid everybody, they might at that point concede because they wouldn't have a choice. Otherwise, they'd face extinction in terms of the college game. I don't think college sports would ever turn against ESPN because it's been the bread and butter. I mean, ESPN built ESPN was built on the backs of college sports.
Right. If that were to happen, and I'm not saying it is, if that were to happen, that would be similar to what the NBA did leaving TNT out. It would be with Peacock and Amazon joining together to make their new rights deal. That's not going to happen. I don't see that happening.
I mean, look, at any point, Amazon and Apple can say game over on sports rights. And there's nobody that can get close to what they could bid because they're both, like, they're making money every second. Every second that clock ticks, Apple and Amazon are making more and more money, right?
Right.
So, like, that's it, right? Their hand would have to be forced by a larger media company. And, again, Amazon and Apple aren't media companies, but they certainly have media companies. Would have to come in and say, like, game over. And that will eventually happen. But the immediate, it's not, right? Apple could have already said that. Amazon could have already said that. They've kind of, Apple's dipped their toe in the water. You know, they're in on baseball now. They've got MLS. Amazon is further, I think, in with sports. But, like, at the end of the day, with all these different platforms that exist that you need to subscribe to, like, that's the reason Netflix now has NFL games. That's the reason that Amazon Prime Video has NFL games and sports. It's the reason Apple's, like, they want that audience that's there for games, and so eventually they could come in and say, like, we've got to bid for the whole deal. That's the one thing I think that would force ESPN's hand here. But, again, like, ESPN isn't the evil doer. Like, essentially what you have here is ESPN has all the inventory and wants to keep it, because of course they do, and Fox wants in. And that's it. That's all this is.
Right.
There's no good or bad. There's just what it is, business. It's Big 12 Today, Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. On the one next, Jamie Plunkett, staff writer, and does a great job in covering Big 12 baseball. Jamie Plunkett gets us ready for the final series of the season in Big 12 baseball. It's Big 12 Today, Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios.
On 3rd and 12, backside heat, fumbled it, it came out. Ball's on the ground. Cougars recover at the 5. Big hit by Jack Kelly.
3rd and 16. Jordan over the middle again. It's caught by Alvarez, but he's going to be taken down at the 39. It's Willis the holder. Here's the pick. It's blocked. And BYU trying to run it back here. Jack Kelly, who just made the defensive play. Allowing defense.
Pressure coming from Kelly. Dampier hit and down he goes. Jack Kelly may have sealed it for BYU.
Inside pressure on Hauser, and he's dropped. Jack Kelly. It was just a matter of time. For the season, getting worked on here. Backside pressure. Hauser feels it. Will not get away. And that is number 2 for Jack Kelly.
On the draw, dangerously close to being a safety. Micah Ford hit by who else? The ubiquitous, ever-present Jack Kelly. Salter flushed out, being spotted, dragged down at the 38-yard line by Jack Kelly.
This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Every Friday throughout the baseball season, we've been able to visit with Jamie Plunkett from Base 12 and the Flyover League. Jamie does a great job in covering Big 12 baseball and entering the final week of the regular season. Should be a lot of fun. Jamie joining us here on Big 12 Radio. All right, Jamie, fresh in my inbox this morning from Base 12. Weekend series previews, Week 10. It's the final week of the regular season. Let's do it. So what stands out to you here as we head into this final weekend?
You know, I think it's the race for the top of the conference, right? You've got Kansas one game ahead of West Virginia. Both teams won on Thursday night. 2 more regular season games to go to determine who wins the championship. And both teams looked really good against BYU and TCU respectively, and now they've got to go and do it for 2 more days. Beyond that, you're talking about teams that are battling on the bubble right now. Arizona State got a really important win over Houston to kind of move their RPI up a little bit. TCU on the other side of that West Virginia loss sees their RPI drop down almost to 50, and now they've got to be a little nervous about where they stand as far as the bubble conversation goes. So a lot to be determined over these next few days, and then obviously even more when it comes to Big 12 tournament time.
Yeah, and look, I mean, Kansas got swept last weekend by West Virginia. They lost midweek to Creighton, so they were on a bit of a slide. You know, what do you make of Kansas right now after they'd won 10 straight and 17 of 20?
I mean, I still think they're really good, right? Great teams even hit bumps in the road every now and then, and the streak that Kansas was on of 25 wins in 27 games or something like that, kind of proves the caliber of team that the Jayhawks are this year, more than a midweek loss at this point in the year. So, going on the road to a BYU team that's much improved over 2025, getting out to an early 6-0 lead, seeing it slip away, and then managing to come back late and take that win, I think is a sign of resiliency, a sign of the capabilities of Kansas. And I think they're still one of the best teams in the country. I think they're deserving of a regional host. I think they're talented enough to get to Omaha. It's just a matter of, can they get back to that level of play that we saw from them the majority of April.
Did you see anything last weekend against West Virginia that gave you some pause or thought may have exposed them a bit?
Not really. I thought last weekend was just more about West Virginia, to be completely honest with you. Getting healthy again, having Max Yale back and being fully healthy, I think is critical for the Mountaineers. And we've seen West Virginia at times this year really kick it into another gear and potentially be the best team in the Big 12, regardless of how the regular season championship shakes out. So last weekend was less about Kansas's struggles and more about West Virginia's abilities in my mind. I don't think Kansas got particularly exposed, no.
All right, so what else beyond the race at the top here are we looking for this weekend, beyond West Virginia and Kansas?
Well, we've got this trio of teams in Cincinnati, TCU, and Oklahoma State trying to figure out which two of those teams are going to be in the top 6 at the end of the day and get that double bye to Thursday in the Big 12 tournament. Right now, all 3 teams are tied at 16-12 in conference play, and the tiebreaker goes to the team with the best record against the highest ranked opponent in conference standings. And so right now that's UCF, and Cincinnati went 2-1 against UCF. TCU went 1-2. Oklahoma State went 0-3. So right now the tiebreaker would say Cincy's in 5th, TCU is in 6th, Oklahoma State is in 7th. And that's important because of how teams are lined up when you talk about, okay, well, if you have to start on Wednesday in the Big 12 tournament versus Thursday, that's a whole nother starting pitcher. That's another day of bullpen usage, right? And then you're trying to make this run all the way to Saturday. You're talking about a 4-game week instead of a 3-game week, which shifts the percentages quite a bit.
We're talking here with JB Plunkett, Base 12, Flyover League. What do you think the Big 12 is looking at the top? I know with Kansas and West Virginia, what needs to happen for either of those teams to be top 8 seeds? Can they be?
I think West Virginia can with the sweep of TCU this weekend and potentially a deep run into the Big 12 tournament, right? They're sitting, I think, ranked 9 in D1 baseball's rankings right now. I think they were the 10th overall host site, according to D1 last week. And, D1 is a pretty good marker of what the selection committee is thinking year over year. So a sweep and a deep run, potentially a Big 12 tournament championship as well, I think would solidify a national seed for West Virginia. Same thing in reverse for Kansas. If they can sweep BYU and win the Big 12 tournament, I think they'd be a national seed as well again. But right now, I think both of them are firmly entrenched in the hosting conversation, giving the Big 12 2 hosts for the first time since 2024.
What about, how many teams do you think make the field? Who has the most to gain and the most to lose from this weekend ahead and next weekend?
Yeah, I think right now 7 would be in if TCU gets in, 6 if TCU doesn't. That's really the marker. I don't think anyone 8th or below in the Big 12 is going to qualify this year. The resumes just aren't strong enough. And so at that point, I think you say TCU probably has the most to lose, maybe Arizona State second most to lose. But, Arizona State with Houston this weekend, they took game 1 of that series, and they get to play the Big 12 tournament virtually in front of a home crowd out in Surprise, Arizona. So that's got to be a huge benefit to them. The Horned Frogs, though, if they can't get this thing figured out, and now that, Sawyer Strohsnyder's banged up and not playing this weekend, the window seems to be closing a little bit for the Horned Frogs.
Yeah, how disappointing is this season for TCU?
It's got to be pretty disappointing, and injuries definitely played a big factor when you think about losing Tommy Lepore for 9 weeks, Chase Brunson getting banged up, Stroh getting banged up, losing a ton of pitchers outside of Lepore as well. I think they had 6 or 7 guys out at one point on a pitching staff of 15, right? And so you're talking about almost half of your arms not available at various points in the year. But beyond that, you think that TCU had the lineup talent to overcome the majority of that. And we've seen other teams overcome some injury issues as well, Oklahoma State being one, right? They've lost multiple arms to injury for the year. They've had other guys banged up at critical moments and seem to be okay. Same with UCF, who I believe is down 7 or 8 arms at this point and still sitting there third in the Big 12. So while injuries play a big part of it, you look at TCU's talent on paper and say, well, they should be able to overcome a lot of those things in the league, and just weren't able to do that. Weren't able to execute in big moments. Haven't really been able to hit with guys on base for the majority of the season. Haven't pitched consistently enough, especially out of the bullpen, to come away with some close wins back in late March, early April. And I'd say it's pretty disappointing. And if they end up missing the tournament, then it's extremely disappointing.
Yeah. Who are maybe some of the other disappointments? Oklahoma State is a team that's kind of figured things out, and they're fun to watch. They've been a lot of fun lately. Who are maybe some of the other teams you expected to be towards the top that are not?
Well, I would say Arizona probably is the biggest one on that list. And with the injuries again, and then just being incredibly young, I think Chip Hale had his work cut out for him this year to try and figure out how that thing was going to go. And you consider what happened this offseason with their pitching staff or pitching coach having to hire 3 different guys. Bringing in a new pitching coach in late December is not ideal for a college baseball team. And so trying to figure all of that out and navigate that, then they go, start to catch a little bit of momentum with the series win over TCU, go and lose the series to Houston. Come out this weekend and say, okay, well, Smith Bailey's shut down for the year. So I'd say that they're disappointing, but the long-term future of that program isn't really in jeopardy, I would say. Just a down year for Arizona.
Yeah, I'm curious, take stock of the current status of the Big 12. When we look back and think about what is this conference going to look like without Texas and Oklahoma, I mean, Texas is a perennial power. TCU, Texas, Oklahoma, Texas Tech, those are teams that were consistently at the top of the Big 12. Just give us a sense here of where the Big 12 is. It's obviously changed and shifted a lot. Is it better right now than it's been in the past?
I'd say it's at that level, if not maybe a tick up. Obviously, losing Texas is huge. Oklahoma, not much of a baseball program historically, so you're not really losing a ton there. And you're bringing in Arizona and Arizona State, who have 9 combined national championships in their history, right? So the blue blood nature of the programs that they brought in, the caliber of programs that we've seen kind of fill the middle of the conference this year, with Baylor being decent, Utah and BYU both taking big steps forward. I think the conference is in a really healthy spot. The debate between, is the Big 12 better than the ACC? I think they're pretty neck and neck at this point, to be completely honest with you. I don't think either league has really established itself in 2026 as the number 2 conference in the country behind the SEC. But the Big 12 has made a really good case. When you look at the overall RPI of the conference, the teams they beat in non-conference play early this season, and then just the way that the conference schedule has shaken out, I think it's a really good, it's a high-quality baseball conference.
Yeah. What do you attribute that to? Because you could have projected that this league would take a major step back without Texas, and it hasn't. So what do you attribute that to?
I would say investment, first and foremost. You look at the way teams are investing in their coaches, right? Dan Fitzgerald just signed a 6-year extension at Kansas. Steve Saban's signed an extension at West Virginia. Jordan Bischel signing an extension at Cincinnati, right? These are Willie Bloomquist at Arizona State getting an extension, Chip Hale getting an extension, right? These coaches are really, really good. And the Big 12 is investing in baseball in a good way. Institutions are investing in these programs by hiring good men to lead them. And all of these coaches are excellent at developing high school talent, at identifying talent at various levels in the transfer portal, whether that's Fitzgerald and his JUCO, half his roster is former JUCO guys, or, you have Josh Holliday and Kirk Saarloos, who are excellent at identifying high school talent. They all have really, really good coaches and coaching staffs. And so that's the first part. And then the NIL and rev share investment in baseball. Yeah. We've seen that consistently be in a good place for Big 12 teams. You know, there are some here and there where maybe the investment isn't quite as much, but overall, it's a pretty strong investment from all of these institutions. So when it comes to investing in coaching staff, investing in the program, investing in the players, I think that's where it begins in this era of college athletics, and the Big 12 is doing that at a good rate for baseball.
All right, call your shot, Jamie. Heading into the Big 12 tournament next week, who's won the conference? Who's the number 1 seed? How do you think this thing shakes out this weekend?
It's so hard to make up even a 1-game deficit in 2 days, right? And so as much as I think West Virginia is on fire right now, if Kansas can just hold on and win today and tomorrow, then they're going to be the Big 12 regular season champs. And I think they've earned that right with the way that they played for the majority of the year. So right now, I would say Kansas is the 1 seed, West Virginia is the 2 seed. But don't get me wrong, BYU could absolutely step up and snatch a game from Kansas. TCU could snatch a game from West Virginia and make it a multiple game lead for the Jayhawks. It could break either way in the next few days.
Yeah, look, I mean, for the most part, BYU would have to sweep Kansas. Even if BYU won 2 of 3, then BYU would have to sweep, or rather West Virginia would have to sweep. So I'm with you. It would take, even with 1 game, it would take kind of a miracle here for West Virginia, but we'll see. That's why they play the games. Jamie Plunkett, Base 12, go subscribe. Go check out the great work that he's doing. And, of course, the Flyover League podcast as well. Jamie, you're doing great work. It's been fun to have you on throughout the season. Appreciate you, bud.
All right, it's always a pleasure, man.
Take care. Jamie Plunkett joining us here. Jamie's so good. I've interviewed him twice now in 2 days. He's going to be on Across the Conference as well heading into next week to preview the Big 12 baseball tournament, which will be next week in Surprise, Arizona. All right, on the way next, it's the segment that is the most overblown, overplayed stories, the stories that could have been an email. This could have been an email next. It's Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio.
Intercepted by Rodriguez.
And then he hurdles here as that one is taken away. It's Jacob Rodriguez. Here's Martin on 2nd and 3, but he is met and tackled for a loss. Jacob Rodriguez making his first big moment. Wigman to the air, and the pass is picked off by Rodriguez. And then he hurdles, but Cougar and is still going. And finally brought down inside the 25-yard line. A lot of yelling at the line. Finally the snap. Avery Johnson on a straight ball came out again. It's out again. Pollock has it. Chase Brown.
This is how you respond to Heisman hype. Rodriguez, touchdown.
Definitely need Sam Jackson. Handoff here as that one is taken away. Going the other way. Make it the 4th play of the game. That's a game changer. Taken to the house. It's Jacob Rodriguez.
They set it in motion. Look out for that screen action. Underneath, intercepted by Rodriguez. Jacob Rodriguez, the big play.
Come back to haunt them because they've been blowing teams out. Nice play in the backfield again by Rodriguez, taking down Connors for a loss.
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Our Big 12 Power Hour today features Arizona spring football. If you haven't yet heard, make sure to download the TuneIn app, where you can listen to Big 12 today every single weekday morning from 7 to 10 Central, 8 to 11 Eastern Time. Then the show replays from 10 to 1. And then following that, you get the Big 12 Power Hour, which today will be spring football Arizona and our interview with Casey Alexander. So at 1 o'clock and then once again at 3 o'clock. You can catch the Big 12 Power Hour today and every weekday at 1 and 3 with our spring football discussion with Arizona and Casey Alexander's interview. So you'll not want to miss that. And of course, next week starts our Road to Arlington, the series where we're spending doing a deep dive, answering very important questions on each and every team across the Big 12. Should be a lot of fun. And we start with Oklahoma State on Monday's show. Also, Big 12 softball this weekend. We've got the Lubbock Regional, which features Ole Miss, Boston University, Texas Tech, and Marist. We have the Stillwater Regional, 13th overall Oklahoma State hosting Stanford, Princeton, and Eastern Illinois. We also have the Texas A&M Bryan College Station Regional, the 15th overall seed, hosting Arizona State, McNeese, and UConn. Durham Regional, featuring the 12th overall seed Duke, with Arizona the 6th, and Marshall and Howard. The 5th regional with the Big 12 team is Tallahassee, with Florida State as the 9th overall seed. UCF, Jacksonville State, and Stetson, also in that Tallahassee All-Florida Regional. And then we have the Norman Regional with the 3rd overall seed Oklahoma, Kansas, Michigan, and Binghamton in that one. So we'll see who makes it out into the Supers. But Texas Tech will not be hosting in the Super Regional unless something crazy happens, which was a product of not getting a top 8 seed. We talked to Jerry Glasgow, Texas Tech's coach, on yesterday's show, and he mentioned that their non-conference schedule was a big reason why they were not a top 8 seed, despite what they did this year. And look, he didn't say it, but I said it for him. There are a lot of programs and conferences that seem to be upset with how Texas Tech is doing its business. For some reason, it's only upsetting when Tech does it. And that may have been a big reason why nobody wanted to schedule them. And the one major non-conference opponent they had was Florida State, who's the 9th overall seed. And that game they couldn't fly to. So they had to cancel that game. So they didn't even have the one data point that may have pushed them over the top for being a top 8 seed. So, Texas Tech, kind of a disappointment to not be a top 8 seed. You would have thought coming into the season maybe they'd be the top overall seed heading into this NCAA tournament. Alabama is the top overall seed. Oklahoma is also another one. And then Oklahoma State, Texas A&M at the 4. All right, it's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo, so we will, of course, have full reaction to what happens on softball on Monday's show. But it's time now for a segment called This Could Have Been an Email. It's the biggest stories across the sports and world. It probably could have just been an email. I'm going to start with the NFL schedule release, which actually is an email. Now, look, hat tip to the unbelievably creative social media departments of all 32 of these NFL teams who it feels like this is their Super Bowl. For an NFL team, your Super Bowl for social media is the schedule release because there were some bangers. The Indianapolis Colts did a full Simpsons spoof with like actual Simpsons scenes in it, which was really well done. Kirk Cousins and Fernando Mendoza did a skit a la Step Brothers that was actually pretty funny and well done. The Cowboys one was pretty funny. The Tennessee Titans one was hilarious. They've become the best. They do like man on the street stuff, which is hilarious. Any other ones stand out to you?
No, I 100% agree that it could have been. I mean, technically it was an email, but I hate the leaks that go up to it. Just release the goddamn. And why do they have to do it at 7:00 at night? Just like release it.
Well, it's a whole event, man.
Why
not?
They could do an all-day event, but let us know who and when and why and what and where we're playing.
Yeah, I remember when they first made the schedule release a thing. I was like, really? Like people are really gonna watch this and care about it? And like every year since I've been like, this is amazing. Give me more. Now, granted, I don't have to watch because most of the time the schedule gets fully leaked before the release show. But just like the fact that this many people are this consumed, like with when our team's going to play where is insanity. I mean,
yeah. I mean, technically, you know where they're going to play because they always do like our opponents for next.
Yeah,
season.
no.
You
You know who they're going to play,
right?
And where they're going to play. You just don't know when.
Right, exactly. Could have been email.
But I fall for it every year, hook, line, and sinker. And it just goes to show you, it's the famed Zoolander quote, but it stands out about the NFL, and that is, Ben Stiller's character, rather, Jerry Stiller's character says it about Jacoby Mugatu, Will Ferrell's character in Zoolander. He says, he's so hot right now, he could defecate into aluminum foil, wrap it up, put fish hooks around it, and sell it to the queen as earrings. That's the NFL. The NFL is just, whatever they package and sell, it's gold.
Marketing geniuses.
So hot right now. And, schedule release a big part of that.
I got one for you.
Okay.
LeBron James.
Ha!
To recalibrate weighing NBA future with his family following the sweep to the Oklahoma City Thunder.
I mean, I expected him to announce his intentions right away, didn't you? Didn't you think as soon as the season ended?
Come on.
No way he's going to drag this
right
out.
after the loss that he was going to say, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do.
Yeah, no way. That could have been an email. LeBron James doesn't know what he's going to do. Shocking.
Didn't see that one coming.
You think he's going to come back?
I do. I do think he's going to come back.
Better question. Do you care if he comes back?
No.
Yeah. He's going to come back. He's not going to go away without giving at least one shot to play with Luka in the playoffs. Who knows if Luka will be available that deep into the season?
I think I don't know if he plays for the Lakers next season. LeBron is a free agent, and there's been some rumors that the Lakers and LeBron don't particularly like each other, but they're never going to publicly say that. But LeBron's family is in LA, and everybody say the perfect tour, his retirement tour, would be if he went back to Cleveland.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. And I mean, you're right. But look, anybody that's going to deal with LeBron James, like any organization he'd be with, would have some disdain over him because of just how much power he wields, and he knows that. And that becomes a power struggle with huge egos, right? I mean, if you're Jeannie Buss, you've got a huge ego, and if you're LeBron, you've got a huge ego, and there's going to be drama surrounding that if you can't defer your ego.
I was listening to a pod where they talked about how LeBron James was really upset about, the Lakers are really upset at LeBron for the Westbrook trade disaster, and LeBron doesn't like the way that he's been treated by the Lakers. There's this tension that's there, but they can't publicly say it because
LeBron has been a horrible GM for a long time.
Yeah.
And yet, despite that, he still gets GM power wherever he goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like I said this from the start with LeBron and his GM-ness. Like, you think he's going to take responsibility when things don't go right?
Yeah, he's going to jump and leave.
Yeah, that or he's not going to point the finger at himself for bad decision-making on the GM side of things. Like, yeah, like the Westbrook move was a really bad move. You could have seen that coming from miles away.
True.
Stevie Wonder could see that coming.
Both ball-dominant players don't usually mesh well together.
No.
And one can't shoot. No disrespect to Westbrook, but he can't shoot.
No, disrespect to Westbrook. And he's an entire offensive ecosystem unto himself, and he's like, his entire game is on his athletic explosiveness, and if you don't have that anymore, you don't have much. That's why Harden is still, playing at a high level at his age, because his game was not at all about athleticism. Westbrook's entire game is athleticism. So, yeah. This could have been an email. Teams hurt by no spring portal window.
Teams hurt.
Like, it's the annual time to panic.
Yeah.
Like
what are we to do?
Well, I mean, like teams hit the offseason. They thought they had certain holes. They hope to plug those holes up through the portal. And then they get to spring, and if they recognize that they didn't plug up all those holes, they start to panic and then wonder where that spring window is.
Yeah, I mean,
this train's right on schedule.
Yeah. I don't know what to say. I mean, how long do you want the window to be? What's the window? You'll live. I got one for you.
All right.
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Oh.
The Milwaukee Bucks are exploring trade options for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Again.
Isn't he a free agent?
No, he's not a free agent. He won't be a free agent until next season. But Giannis is...
We have to do a whole nother year of this?
He's eligible for a 4-year, $275 million contract extension on October 1st if he is not traded or 6 months after being traded.
Well, and it's the whole Birds right thing too, where he's got to be traded to then re-sign with his new team so that he can max out the money he can get, as opposed to signing as a free agent elsewhere.
Right.
Let's just, since I don't pay a ton of attention to the NBA, like is Giannis still really good? He is, right?
Yes, absolutely. Phenomenal player. Has battled through some injuries. Is on the wrong side of 30.
Right. That's the part. It's like his value. The Bucks are not going to get the value for him that they think they should be getting for him in a trade.
Agreed.
He played in 36 games this past year. You could argue that many of that was because they sat him out. He was averaging 27.5 points, 9.8 rebounds,
5.4 assists.
Yeah, he's still really good.
Yeah,
67 games in 24, 25, 30, averaging 30 points a game. So, I mean, he still gets off the bus and is a 30-10 guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's still really good. The problem is like I said, wrong side of 30, injuries, and what are the Bucks going to – I think the Bucks, by letting this drag out, like you said, their value is going to be less. I said, I think a year ago, that they should have traded with the Spurs. They would have gotten like a Stephon Castle type. They would have gotten Dylan Harper, and they would have had Wemby and Giannis together, but the Spurs would have had to give up some of their youth. But Milwaukee would have been okay with that because they would have gotten youthful players, but now that window's starting to sail.
If you're the Mavs, you're a Mavs fan, would you give up multiple first-round picks, including this year's number 9 for him?
No.
You would not?
No, I would not. I want a youthful team around Cooper Flag for the next decade, not Giannis, who, again, is on the wrong side of 30. What happened the last time the Mavericks traded for a guy who was on the wrong side of 30 who was a power forward?
Yeah.
Didn't work out so well for him.
Yeah, I mean, Giannis is better.
True, but I just – the age thing concerns me.
Yeah, I mean, look.
And he's had a few injuries the last couple of postseasons, so I'm not on board.
Yeah, I mean, he has not played – he played 73 games in 23-24. But aside from that,
he got hurt in the postseason, I believe.
Yeah, right. I mean, so he played in 2019, 2020. He played in 63 games, 61 the next year, 67, 63, 73, 67, 36. That's the problem there. And I think, like, this is the draft for Milwaukee to be trading Giannis in. The problem is, like, who, like, if you're the Bulls, are you giving up the 4th overall pick and future picks? I don't think so. I don't think you should. Even though this guy's still a ridiculously good player, it just feels like this is the draft that helps set a trajectory for a young franchise on the right path. Like, maybe, there are years in which teams would give up a top 5 pick for him because of the player that he is, but I don't know that this is that year.
The only team that I could see, and they don't even have to, but they just have the luxury of doing it. The Thunder have a lottery pick, granted not high, and they could use it, but, trade Lou Dort, use that first-round pick. They don't have to do it, but they're just a team that has the luxury of doing it if they wanted to.
I think Jalen Williams is a free agent after this year.
I think you're correct on that.
So that could kind of tie them up a little bit.
And Lou Dort is trade bait. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. All right, this could have been an email. It's Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Thanks, of course, as always, to our great producers, Anthony Smith over with Big 12 Studios. Tamer Turner, Cheat Chains, doing a great job holding it down here for Tune In. I'm Ari Tepkin. We're back on Monday. Can't wait for the road to Arlington, but for now, we're out. Peace.